So I'm about to do something that I've never done before. I've been working on this podcast for over 6 years, read over 300 biographies of history's greatest entrepreneurs, well over 100,000 pages. And in that entire time, you have never heard another voice on this feed besides my own. But I want to make sure you don't miss this conversation with David and Ben from the Acquired podcast. So right after my dinner with Charlie Munger, I flew directly from Los Angeles to San Francisco because David and Ben very graciously invited me to be a guest on their world-class podcast. What you're about to hear is a 3-hour-long conversation between three people that are so obsessed with studying the history of entrepreneurship that it's their life's work. They're dedicating almost every waking hour to do so, to finding great ideas from the past and then sharing those ideas on our podcasts so future generations of entrepreneurs, founders, and investors can benefit. And as you already know, I've been obsessed with David Ogilvy ever since I was reading Warren Buffett shareholder letters, and Warren Buffett said that David Ogilvy was a genius. I then went and found every single book that he ever wrote or was written about him and read it. And there's a line in one of the biographies of David Ogilvy that says David Ogilvy was building his first-class business in a first-class way. Ben and David of Acquired are doing the exact same thing. I believe that Acquired and Founders are perfect complements to one another. I focus on the founder, the actual individual, and the person through biographies. They do these hours-long, really in-depth company histories that are just absolutely excellent. If you do not already follow Acquired in your favorite podcast player, please do so right now and start with their episode on the history of LVMH. It is one of the best episodes that I've ever heard, and I've been obsessed with podcasts for over 13 years now. I would listen to that episode first, but their episode on Walmart is excellent. Their 3-part series on Berkshire Hathaway, excellent. Their episode on the NFL, Sequoia Capital, Benchmark, Amazon, the list goes on and on and on. And regardless of what episode that you choose to listen to, what Acquired and Founders has in common is the fact that we both do an insane amount of research, and we do this so that when you press play, you're guaranteed a good return on the time invested listening to every episode. And one more thing I want to tell you about before we jump into this conversation is the presenting sponsor of this episode is Tiny. Tiny is the easiest way for you to sell your business. They provide straightforward cash exits for founders, and they can do deals of all sizes. In the past, they've bought businesses for as little as $1 million and some businesses for well over $100 million. And as we've learned over the last 2 episodes, Bernard Arnault is the buyer of choice for family luxury businesses. Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger are the buyer of choice for family businesses of all types. And Tiny is well on their way to being the buyer of choice for founders of businesses worth anywhere from $1 million to over $100 million who want a hassle-free cash exit. If you have a business that you want to sell now or in the future, make sure you email hi@tiny.com first. I hope you enjoy this conversation, and I hope you follow Acquired in your podcast player like I do.
So, David, do you want to tell us who you had dinner with the other night?
I had a 3-hour dinner with Charlie Munger,
That is awesome.
where I could ask him any questions that you want. Well, first of all, I guess we should back up. It's like there's a reason that he's so admired, right, by so many people. But for me particularly, you get to meet a lot of really interesting people because of the work that we do, right?
Yep.
And so that's like a blessing and something that I know we've had conversations in the past that we deeply appreciate. But Charlie's a different level for me. Like, I literally think of him like the wise grandfather I never had. I've met all kinds of people. I don't really get like nervous or starstruck. I was legitimately like shaking the day before. I was like, I cannot believe I didn't want to tell that many people because like there's no way this is gonna happen. Like I won't believe it till it actually happens. We do very similar work, right? Where it's just like how many people have spent 6-7 years, tens of thousands of hours reading hundreds of books about the history of entrepreneurship and investing, and then not only reading it, taking notes on it, making a podcast.
And Charlie and Warren.
Yeah, and so and the reason I bring that up is because you think about all the different companies and founders you guys have studied, all the different companies and founders that I've studied, right? And like even amongst the rarest group of people, Charlie still stands out. And the crazy thing is, he's 99, right? And so I get there and we start off in his library, which is like the best place for me that you could possibly see.
Set the stage more. How big is the library? Like how many books are we talking about?
His one of his family members was there too, and she's like, oh, this is like nothing.
This is like the front room. Wait till you see the back.
Yeah, so it's like it's similar to like the room we're in, like very similar size, and floor to ceiling shelves. And so I'm with a small group of friends. In fact, mutual friends for ours. So the people that set this up for us or for me was Andrew Wilkinson and Chris from the founders of Tiny, who are mutual friends, and so we're sitting there, And there's actually a funny thing where it starts out, and they know both Warren and Charlie. They've talked to them before, so they go right into it. And then like I'm sitting there, and I had this whole list of probably like 25 questions.
I was gonna ask if you like prepared in advance. I know you did.
I never got the chance to open my phone because I was just sitting there. I was like, I'm looking at him, and he's very close, like maybe a little bit further
that
for
would
me
feel
to
super
film.
disrespectful to like take up my phone to.
Yeah, that too. And I had, read every single book on Charlie. I watched all of his videos. Like, I've studied this guy forever. And so every time he had said, hey, read this book, I go and read the book. And then I see a bunch of the books that he has recommended behind him. So people are like, oh, was he as, like, you expected? Like, they say, hey, be careful, don't meet your heroes, right? It's like he was unbelievably gracious. Unbelievably, like, I was like, hey, Charlie, you mind if I take a look at your bookshelf, right? He's just like, do whatever you want. Just unbelievably polite. Still like biting intellect, ferocious intelligence.
At 99.
At 99. So we were talking earlier downstairs where the scary thing about Charlie is, I remember asking him a question about Henry Kaiser, this guy that was super famous when Charlie was younger. He built like 100 companies, built the Hoover Dam. Like he was as famous in his time as like Elon Musk is today, right? But no one knows who he is. And I was asking questions about Charlie in the book, and his recall is just insane. So the point where I asked him, I go, how do you know all this, Charlie? He goes, I knew his partner. And then he starts telling stories about having a relationship with Henry Kaiser's business partner. And then all these 3 hours of just unbelievable stories. And then I go, Charlie, like, how do you remember all this stuff? Like, do you write, do you take notes? Do you reread the books over and over again? He's like, nope. And all I could think of was like, imagine.
Wow.
That guy's mind at 99 is still so sharp. I had brought a gift for him because he talks about like Rockefeller all the time. I bought him this special edition, centennial edition version of Henry Flagler's biography.
Oh, Flagler. Yes.
So I live in Miami. The guy, Les Sandiford, I think is the author of that book. He is good friends with, there's only like one local bookshop in Miami called Books and Books. And so Les is a local author who's good friends with the owner of that bookstore. So they did you can't get this book anywhere else. It's a special edition book.
Because Flagler moved to Florida later
After
in life,
the Standard Oil thing.
Yeah.
That he's got a fascinating story. We can talk about that, where he unbelievably wealthy because of Standard Oil.
Yep.
He's 50, 60, 70 years old when he's doing this, and he's just like, oh, what am I going to do now? I'll build an entire state. When he gets to Miami is little less than 500 people living in a swamp. You can't live there. There was no AC at the time. And so then he builds the world's first railroad over connecting the Florida Keys. He just essentially, like, you read that book and you're like, oh, humans have no limits other than the ones we put on ourselves. And so that's what Flagler does. He just stretches it. And he does some terrible things too, where it's like, wanted to find a way to divorce his wife. So he literally moves to another state because he couldn't be divorced in New York, bribes the government of Florida. They create the Flagler law, which allows him to get a divorce. Then he does that like a few times. I think he's like in his 70s. He marries like a 30-year-old. Like, so it's not all good. Yeah. But that guy's like, oh, your rules don't apply to me. Like, I will build whatever I want. He built infrastructure, hotels, everything else.
This is like one of the things that I keep learning from Founders Podcast, and I'm curious if you do it intentionally or if you like try not to do it. But like every single time I'm like, oh, people aren't perfect. Like none of your heroes are perfect. And do you find yourself like, because we run into this on Acquired a lot, where like it's not as fun to tell stories about terrible people, and so you like don't want to show someone's negative side as much because it doesn't, like, it's just
well, we fall in love with them too,
right,
when we're doing
right
that.
And you're like, wow, they're the most extraordinary person on this one axis to ever live, and we should talk about how they're a flawed person in many ways, but it's not fun to dwell on. Like, you kind of want to like move through that and be like, yep, they were flawed. Here's the next amazing thing that they did. Like, how do you handle that?
Like, you know how a normal biography is written, right? It's like way too much family history. Like, I want to know some family history. I don't want 5 generations back. Right. Stop. Like, I don't want to know the origination of their last name. I don't need that. I want to know, like...
And you're like the most qualified person in the world to critique a biography writing style at this point, so...
So, why we're reading it is, like, everyone wants to know the climb, right? It's like, how did you guys... I just went through your entire... To get part of the prep for Charlie is listening to all of your Berkshire episodes, right? Where you guys do a fantastic job on this, because, like, the first 2 is, like, the young Charlie, the young Warren. Yeah. So I would literally, and I've done this forever, it's like, I don't... When you think of Warren Buffett or Ben Franklin or George Washington or anybody that's super famous, when we see them, it's like, oh, who's the Ben Franklin on the $100 bill, right? Or who's Washington on the dollar bill? Or who's Buffett at the meeting in Omaha? It's like, no, that's the guy that is enjoying the fruits of the person that actually built the empire.
That's
what
I
someone
go,
said,
I go and stare at pictures like a freak at like of young Charlie Munger when he was like 38, or young Warren Buffett, right? They were like us. They looked like they were young people once.
Yeah.
In our Berkshire series, did we end the first episode without even getting to Berkshire yet? I think we might.
you
Yeah,
have
it was the
to.
Buffett
Yeah.
partnership.
It was
You
just
have
the partnerships.
to.
Yeah.
You mentioned it on the Walmart episode where it's like everybody says, "Oh, Sam Walton didn't start Walmart till he was 44." Yeah, but he was doing 25 years of practice and learning, and he wasn't just sitting on his ass. Like,
Starting a bunch of stuff that looked an awful lot like Walmart.
yes, learning from that. And so the
Which is totally like, I mean, aside, but we have no agenda here. That is like, I think both an advantage that like we have, all three of us, and like kind of a secret that we have, which is that like we did Walmart because we wanted to do Amazon. And so we were like, how do we do Amazon, right? We got to do Walmart first. People want this. Like, this is the right way to study things.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think this is why people get a lot of value, and I don't want it to make us about, hey, this is an acquired founder show. The reason that some of the people in our audiences are the most successful people in the world, they're all reading biographies, they're all studying the history of business. I told you guys a few weeks ago, I was very lucky to have a 2-hour one-on-one lunch with Sam Zell that I didn't think was possible. What I realized in that conversation is like, Sam Zell sold his company for almost $40 billion, right? Yeah. $38 billion, whatever it was. It's like, you don't build a company, sell for $40 billion, and then learn all these. It's like he was doing this since he was young. We were talking in his autobiography, he talks about...
I think my favorite episode of your podcast is the Kobe Bryant episode.
Yeah.
Because like, this is what these guys are doing. They're like Kobe Bryant.
They're watching game tape.
They're watching game tape. They're working on the fundamentals from the time they're 12 through the time they die. They don't stop.
I think that's what listening to Acquired and Founders is you're watching game tape of history's greatest entrepreneurs. Sam did this when he was younger, but this ties together where Bill Gurley had a fantastic quote about this, a tweet about this, when all that crypto was going crazy and like the run up and people were getting rich. And he's like, one thing I don't like, and I'm paraphrasing because I wasn't expecting to talk about this. He's like, I don't like the younger people denigrating the people that came before them. Yeah. And he's like, he made the point that none of history's greatest entrepreneurs or investors did that. They had the opposite perspective. All of them had idols. You just made the point. You can't understand Jeff Bezos until you study Sam Walton. You can't understand Sam Walton until you understand J.C. Penney and Sol Price
and even
all
their
these
contemporaries.
guys.
Like the point that Walton always made was, I don't think my competitors are stupid. I want to go shop my competitors and get all of their very best insights and then bring them into my store.
Yeah. 100%. They're learning machines.
Yeah.
And so you get to Charlie's, tying this all back to this, you get to Charlie's bookshelf and it's just biographies I've never even heard of. And I do this for a living. I do it for a living. I was like, what is this book? And then I started looking. I was like, oh, I'm just taking picture after picture after picture. I was like, I'm ordering every single one.
So we're talking about this idea that like the way to get truth is to weave together the tapestry of all of history's stories of things that are adjacent to understand like how this opportunity to start some business came to be. And you always have to, like, all history is revisionist and all history is biased. And so I think one of the hardest things about making an Acquired episode is figuring out, like, when we're looking at a source, like someone giving an industry talk who works at a company, or like a biographer who chose to dedicate 2 years of their life to writing this book after working at Newsweek and covering the sector forever, is like trying to mentally account for and discount from whatever bias and perspective they're coming in with to create whatever the source material is that we're using to then incorporate into our version of here's how this thing happened, that's like, I think it's the hardest part about what we do. And I'm curious if you ever think about that.
I think about it all the time because people are like, oh, like survivorship bias or revisionist history and everything else. It's like, here's the problem. Like, we humans don't see things as they are. We see them as we are. So like, we could have this super long conversation between the three of us right now, then go in the other room and write down, what just occurred. And every single version is going to be different because it's viewed through all of our experience, the way we think, the words we use. And so what I'm looking at is like, when I'm reading about Sam Walton, right? It's just like, the story we both hit on all the podcasts, because I've done a bunch of podcasts on Sam too, where it's like, the guy's pissed off. He's just like driving from store to store on these like mountain roads, taking forever. So he buys the plane and he realizes like, oh, this is a massive advantage because I'm doing something my competitors aren't, right? I'm flying over, and you guys mentioned it too, which I thought was hilarious.
Sideways.
It's like, and then he just lands and he's like, who owns that? Let me land, and then he buys for action. So he's like, we're going to negotiate right now. I want to buy it from you. And so my point is like, okay, yes, that most likely occurred. But what is the idea behind that? You can have an advantage by doing something your competitors are not doing, right?
Yep.
And this ties together what you just said is like, they all learn from somebody else. when we're reading these books and listening to these podcasts, it's like, what's the idea I can use in my life? We're not building the next Walmart. There's no way if we read Titan that we could tell, did this actually happen?
Right.
I don't know, but I'm looking for the ideas behind it. Not, I'm going to verify for every single word in this book. That's ridiculous.
Right. And the truth is always the case that a clean narrative is grafted onto a fact pattern. And it's like, okay, well, what I care about is the lessons I can learn from the clean narrative, not does the fact pattern, if you had all the facts in totality, did it necessarily mean that this was premeditated? It's like, whether it was premeditated or not, the facts are the facts, and like maybe I can duplicate it in a different realm.
For what we do, I mean, I think on Acquired more than you, but especially because you will do multiple episodes of different books on the same people.
And multiple episodes on the same book.
Yeah, and multiple episodes on the same book, right.
Your format is
we're
better
doing a narrative weave.
Yeah.
So like,
we're shooting the moon a little bit more in this respect. Like your format lends itself to, so for anyone who's listening, like Founders is more about, hey, I just read this book and I want to tell you what I learned from this book. And it's always biography. And like sometimes you'll do 5 different biographies on Edwin Land. And like if Acquired was going to do Polaroid, we would do Polaroid. The episode would be Polaroid. Maybe it would be like Polaroid part 1 and part 2, or like maybe at some point we'd have
one narrative.
We'd have like someone on to like talk about the story, in addition to our one canonical episode. But like we would be shooting the moon on like, let's make sure that we get the Polaroid story as right. It's almost like, how do we find the correct average of all of the other stories to create the canonical version?
I wasn't expecting to quote Bill Gurley 2 times early so far, but
this is how you know this is going to be a good episode.
That fantastic talk he gave, which to me is the best talk for entrepreneurs, investors on YouTube. It's called Running Down a Dream, How to Survive and Thrive in a Career You Love, right? So and he says, it's like, listen, in the age of the internet, he's like, you don't have to be the smartest person, right? Charlie Munger, after talking to him, whatever mind that dude has, I don't have that, and I'm cool with that. Like, I could not imagine trying to compete against that guy 40 years ago. Like, he would destroy me, right? He's got a super mind that I don't have. But what Bill says is like, you don't have to be the smartest person, but you can collect the most information, and he holds you to a high standard in that talk. Bill's like, listen, in the age of the internet, all the information you possibly need, right, is right at your fingertips. You have no excuse not to do this. And so he gives the example of, if you want to be a domain expert in whatever you're doing, like within 2 years of intense study, if you're doing that and you're focused on it, it's like you're going to get to the point where like you know more than maybe anybody else. And so that's my whole thing, was like, when you talk to, you've never met a founder or an entrepreneur that's like kind of into entrepreneurship. It's like, no, it's our lives.
Yeah.
So of course, the reason why so many of them listen to both of our shows, right? It's because they're building machines where they literally can turn knowledge into profit, right? I become close friends with the guy through the podcast. He's a young kid. I don't mean to call him a kid. He's not a kid, but he's a lot younger than I am. And he's like 28 years old. And we were on the phone the other day because he had a very serious offer for a company he owns like 95% of, and they were gonna give him $100 million, right? He winds up saying no to it. But the point is like, when you talk to him, he's listened to all the episodes, he's read like 60 of the books. He'll text me a picture of like, he won't even tell me what the book. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I read that. Like, he's like, oh yeah, it's from this episode. It's like, oh, why? What if he finds one idea in a book, one idea in a podcast, and it gives a 10% improvement on his company? It's a $10 million idea.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about this earlier, like this dinner that you have with Charlie. It sounds like Charlie is just like a very curiosity-driven machine, but we know there's lots of folks that have regular dinners and have groups of people, often geographically dispersed. Mm-hmm. Why do they do it? Why is it worth their time, their money, their effort? It's that if they get one idea, the leverage that they can get on that is astronomical.
Charlie tells a story. He's like, I made $400 million from reading Barron's for 50 years. And you're like, what are you talking about, Charlie?
And how do you quantify that?
Because he does. So he goes, I read, this isn't something he said at dinner, I've heard him say publicly. He's like, I read Barron's all the time for 50 years. I found one idea that I can act on. I made $50 million on that deal. And then I took that $50 million and I gave it to Li Lu. Is that the?
Oh yeah.
I gave that $50 million to Li Lu, and Li Lu turned it into $400 million. That's how I made $400 million from reading Barron's.
Wow.
And listen, I'm not. And this is another thing where I feel like everybody's like, oh, this time is different. This is new. It's like human nature has never changed. It will never change. This time is not different. You're just the difference is if you don't study the history of the people that came before you, you're just ignorant and making mistakes that people already saw in the past. Learning from history is a form of leverage. He has billions and billions of years of collective like human history. You know, this guy spent 70 years and there's thousands of them. And like Sam Walton's book, how many people spent 50 years in one industry, in the retail industry, and he distilled it down
and then
to
wrote
the
a
most
book
important.
about it.
And then you could read it in a week, and then you could listen to Acquired's episodes. You can listen to David's episodes on Sam.
Okay, this is good.
In addition to that.
So the question is then, do you have 90% of Sam's wisdom, or do you have 0.1% of Sam's wisdom after?
There's no way you have 90%.
Right.
Because like the time,
Right.
like
The instincts.
I was just rewatching Peter Thiel's talk at Y Combinator. He says competition is for losers.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, one thing that we do in
I haven't seen
Silicon,
this one.
It's a classic.
one thing we do in Silicon Valley is we overvalue growth rates and undervalue durability. And he's like, that doesn't make sense for a technology company because all your profits, the vast majority of profits, are 20 years in the future. And so if you're trying to optimize for growth, and that over-optimization can cause your company to go out of business, you're never going to collect that. You optimize for durability first, dummy. Like that's to me, like my interpretation of what he's saying, right? Yeah, so you're going to get, 1% probably, maybe 5%.
But that's still enormous leverage, because you read it in 5 hours and he took 50 years to accumulate everything.
And it's Sam Walton's wisdom.
And it's what you do with the idea.
I know you've talked about this before, but like, what was the moment where you're like, I'm gonna start this podcast? Like, it's crazy, right? What you do, you talk to a microphone yourself every week.
Yeah. My friend.
Not that I think you're crazy.
Oh, I definitely am.
You are, but in a good
No,
way.
I definitely am nuts for sure. And that's going to be like we can talk about. Did you guys read Jeff Bezos' last shareholder letter before he?
Yeah.
One of the best lines he has is at the end. He's like, "Differentiation is survival." And so like think about that, like how hard. Like they say, let's say somebody says, "Damn, I love what Ben and David are doing. I'm going to do the exact same thing." They can jump in and try to do that, right? But you have 6 years of experience. You have 600 hours out there.
You have to counter-position against us, or address a different audience, or
Exactly.
Which, by the way, they definitely should. Every time I talk to somebody who wants to, I'm always like, you absolutely should do this.
Yeah.
And you will, even if you never succeed in terms of any like numerical success, or like you will succeed because you are learning. Like,
so being a nut job and completely crazy is, I think, makes you harder to compete with. And it's also, we're going to go all over the map here, but it's impossible not to be that. Like, think about how seeped you guys are in the same information that I am, where it always says, oh, you're the sum of the first of your 5 friends or whatever, right? Well, it's also like you're the sum of your podcasts you listen to and the books you read. And so
it's
what
your
happens,
5 friends, including your parasocial relationships.
And so now what happens is like, you mentioned, dude, you won't even read like one book about him, you'll go crazy. And so what happens is when I'm really interested in somebody, I listen to Bill Gurley. Again, I just take advice from people who are smarter than me. Bill said, go collect everything you can. Okay, I'll do that. These are simple ideas.
Yeah.
And so I'll find somebody that's interesting. I'll read everything about him. And so with Charlie, I have like a little Charlie Munger on my shoulder. I have a little Steve Jobs, a little Edwin Land, a little David Ogilvy, Estee Lauder, Coco Chanel, all these people that have been heroes of mine, James Dyson. And so now I'm presented with a situation like, what would they do? And if you read and absorb everything that's out there about these people, like you'll have an idea of like how they would respond. Did you guys ever read Ken Kosienda's book, Creative Selection? About that? Oh, that's shocking. Did you guys?
He worked on the original human interface for the iPhone.
He made the keyboard for when it was still
That's
like,
right.
Operation
For iPhone
Purple
OS.
or something.
Yeah.
The
P2.
keyboard. He made Safari before the iPhone. He has this excellent book that I've read like 3 times called Creative Selection. I think the design, how Apple designed products in the golden age of Steve Jobs might be the subtitle. But he talked about that where he demoed to Steve, right? And you're not going to describe it to him. You're going to demo and you're going to hand it to him. And so they iterate. You guys already know this. They iterate through a series of demos, and it's based on Steve's taste. Like he is not. Oh, let's talk about this. Like, nope, do this, that. And so Ken has a great line in the book where he's like, demoing for Steve is like asking questions to the Oracle of Delphi, except the Oracle of Delphi would like respond with a riddle. And he's like, no, Steve was unbelievably like crystal clear. You understood him. Out of every single person I've ever studied, Steve Jobs is by far the clearest thinker I have ever come across. Like he's just gifted at that. Charlie is like the Oracle, and it's crystal clear. You are not like, you are going to understand the idea he's trying to get into your brain for sure. But my point being is like all of the people that we study, they don't denigrate the past. Steve Jobs, the reason I'm so obsessed with Edwin Land, I read in a biography, when Steve was like in his 20s, Edwin Land is in like his 70s, he goes and meets Edwin Land, and he goes, visiting Edwin Land was like visiting a shrine. He's like, he is my hero, more people should try to be like that. And then you guys made the point in that, Jeff Bezos took a lot of ideas from Sam. Who took a bunch of ideas from Sony too? Steve and Jeff. So that you always find these people where you're like, oh, I thought this was a Steve Jobs idea.
Right.
No, it's an Akio Morita idea.
Yeah.
Or an Edwin Land idea.
Or an Edwin Land idea. Like when we used to watch the presentations that Steve would give, where he's like, oh, we're building at the intersection of technology and liberal arts. He put it up on the screen.
He ripped that off wholesale.
Edwin Land said that exact word. But that's the point. It's like you're never going to find anybody gets to the top of their profession without doing the work, like studying the people that came before them and learning from them and admiring them.
This is a good sort of personal pivot and something I've never asked you in all the hours we've spent. It's crazy. This is the first time we've met in person.
Yeah.
Like we spent hours and hours and hours on Zoom. How did you decide that this is what you were going to do with your time on this planet? And what led to this?
Okay, so our mutual friend Jeremy from formerly of Tiny, I just spent a bunch of hours with him. He was in town. In one sentence, he psychoanalyzed me better than anybody else ever has. He goes, you didn't have any mentors growing up, so you took it to this extreme, and he said it much more eloquently than I am, but he's like, you didn't have any mentors, so I view your career as this psychopathic search for mentors that can help you, And so to answer your question, it's I don't want to go into too much detail here, but I've only had one habit my whole life, and that was reading. I was reading for as long as I can remember. My mom passed away from breast cancer a couple years ago, and we didn't have a lot of money, long story, but I was the first person not only to graduate college, but high school in my family. I came from a family that unfortunately both sides of the family, no education, a lot of just bad habits. So I identify with a lot what Charlie Munger says, because he essentially observes bad behavior and then tries to do the opposite, right? Mm-hmm. So I was just, let me give you an example. I was just up in Canada, actually at an event Andrew Wilkinson was hosting for a bunch of entrepreneurs. Me, Shane Parrish from the Knowledge Project, and Farnham Street was up there, Ben Wilson from How to Take Over the World, and we were doing this panel together. And Shane's the moderator, and we don't know what we're going to talk about beforehand. And so Shane asked the questions oh, what did you learn most from your upbringing or something like that, right? And I go, I learned not to do cocaine and to graduate high school. So that kind of thing, right? And so there's just a bunch of anti-models. I thought about this as I was walking through the Tenderloin this morning in San Francisco. And I was like, I should do this walk with my daughter as the best, hey, this is why you don't do drugs. Yeah. This is the perfect example of you observe bad behavior and then you do the opposite. So long story short, I've always been obsessed with reading. One of the best things my mom ever did was, even if we didn't have money for books, she would take me to the bookstore and just sit there. Bookstores are so cool because they just let you read. No one comes here and is hey, you've been reading for an hour, you got to get out of here, and just read and read and read. So was
there anybody who introduced you to reading and books, or you just there was just something about
Sounds
you?
like his mom.
Yeah, but no, she wasn't a big reader. The only thing she read was the Bible. There was no books in the house when I was younger, ever.
So how did you be
I can't answer that.
Mom, take me to the bookstore.
I can't answer that. All I can say is my wife has known me for 15 years, and her thing, what she says is, she likes my family and gets along with them, but she goes, how did that come from that?
I know, it sounds like you have a classic, you're the one who made it out story.
Sam Hinkie, our mutual friend, actually gave me the way to think about this, and it's called the founder of your family, right? And it's the person that and I used to call them, and it was a terrible name, but generational inflection points, because you'd read this in the biography where you have generation after generation of just not good things happening, and then one person just says, it stops now.
That's what Rockefeller did.
Rockefeller.
Yep.
I always think of Sam Bronfman, the guy that did Seagram's.
Oh, yeah.
And he's in Canada growing up. They were their parents had lost so much money. They think they were Jewish and they had to escape from persecution in Russia. I can't remember where they came from. But they go and they have to start all over. And they're in Canada and there's no heating. And they're freezing. And he has this psychopathic drive to change. But that stays with you forever. So once... he builds this massive company and literally changes the trajectory of all of his descendants. And as his daughter's an adult, and she tells a story in the book where Sam is sitting there in a mansion next to a fire, shivering, thinking about how embarrassing it was to have to go to school with tattered clothing. It's just that guy's never going to go back to that, and he never loses it. So I just always been a reader. That's the only thing I've ever, the only one unbroken habit I've always had. And so I just had this idea where like I was obsessed with podcasts forever. I was obsessed with audio before there was such thing as a podcast. Like I would listen to talk radio when I was a kid, and at that time, you know, it's not like there's no on-demand anything. You would listen sports talk radio, politics talk radio. It's embarrassing. There was like this woman that used to be on at night. People would write in like advice for their love life, and I'd listen to that. Just the idea of like there's all this information.
Oh man, I used to listen to Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. Do you ever listen to this? Like, it's when all the other radio programming sort of expires, and then you enter the like 1 a.m. AM radio stuff, and it was like, you know, aliens and like tons of paranormal stuff. But it was like if you listen, like, you know, the Cavs game ends. I'm from Cleveland, and so like then you listen to like the sports post game, and then it goes into like the politics hour, and if you still can't fall asleep, then you're into like aliens, and it's like 4 hours of that stuff.
Do you have a radio in your bedroom?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'd be able to. I imagine my parents probably came and turned it off, but like would leave it on while I fell asleep every night.
And then I remember. So you have the jump up from that. Then the AM radio stations would then start streaming to your browser, internet. It still wasn't on demand. So if you're not listening at 3 o'clock or 12, like you miss it. And then once I saw
wasn't this what Mark Cuban's company was?
His was like broadcasting audio for sports games, though I think.
I don't actually know. It's kind of funny. It's like an era.
It's broadcast.com, right?
Yeah. And it was competitive with Real Player, which also wasn't on demand. That was just streamed radio.
No, the first on demand was the first time I saw this. I was like, this is insane. Like, especially for people that are like, you know, learning machines using Charlie's, where it's like I can go to even today. Like the idea, you can go to any podcast player, type in whatever you want to learn about, and then you can hear somebody that's usually spent hundreds of hours teaching you about this stuff.
You can also find intellectual, high-quality content more easily now because all content, because there were a limited number of channels and a limited number of time slots, everything had to be produced for the lowest common denominator. And now you can opt into your niche and find the highest quality content in that niche.
Yep.
And like the only way to do that before was books. Like there wasn't an audio way there wasn't content. There wasn't niche audio content broadly available.
And there aren't like several million authors out there,
right?
But there's several million podcasters,
right?
Well, I think you were getting to a good point. It's like because the business model didn't support that, and so now
and there was no distribution.
Yeah, and now with podcasting, it's like you guys, you know, I'm sure, I think like 50. I don't ever look at analytics, but I think last time I looked, it was like 50% of my audience was in the United States, but then everywhere. And so I was doing the early days of Founders. I remember it all changed because I couldn't figure out the business model. So you would do like affiliate, you know, at that time, I remember when I first started.
Yeah, you went through a bunch of business models.
Yeah, so when I first started, they're like, hey, you contact like the few podcast advertising networks there were back then, you know, because you guys started your show in 2016, right?
15.
Okay, so I started in 2016. And you contact me, like, yeah, we can do ads for your show. You know, you need like 25,000 downloads an episode. And at the time, I'm like, I'll never get there.
Right.
Like, obviously, we've skyrocketed past that. But like, that's impossible. That's like as many people as in a basketball arena.
Oh, when you start visualizing the audience, it's like, 2.5 NFL stadiums show up for every acquired episode. Like, that's an insane...
Yes. But do you guys think... So, do you guys think about that?
Only in adding to the pressure in a good way. Like, it's a good motivator.
I never think about it.
Really?
You know what I think about it? How my show's set up is why I say you and I It's like,
right.
I
like how you treat the audience as like the person you're...
It's one person. So like one, and I've done this forever. It's like, it's funny. I remember it's one of my friends that we met up one day and I was like, man, I think I'm going to try to make like a business around the fact that I read so much. And he's like, and he called me like 6 months ago, a year ago. He's like, I can't believe you did that. Because he's like, that was the dumbest thing I ever heard. But I just picture him when I started. It's like, the whole idea behind the show was like, what if you got to meet up once a week with your friend that reads a lot and he just tells you the stuff that he read that week, like interesting ideas. And so I
Did it
always
even
picture
cross
one
your
person.
mind to like try and convince him to do the podcast with you or somebody else? Or you were always just like, no, I'm going to...
So one thing, we don't have like a bunch of prepared stuff, but one thing us three talked about is like, hey, why don't we talk about like, who was your influence on why you do what you do? And so I feel the greatest podcaster of all time is Dan Carlin from Hardcore History. That's like I think he's like, I can't believe what that guy does, right?
You and him are like the only successful monologue podcasters. Like, I think it's the hardest thing to do in this medium. And there's everyone else either has a guest on or a co-host.
Yeah. Well, there's another guy that was, so I took Dan Carlin, I was obsessed with him. I've listened to all his episodes for like years. You were talking about falling asleep. I did that too, but I fell asleep to Dan Carlin. So I'd over and over and over again to now where I listen to him, I'm like, it's like
Pavlovian.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
no, don't wake.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not nighttime, bro. Wake up. But there was another one that a friend of mine put me on to. There's this comedian named Bill Burr. Mm-hmm. He does the Monday morning podcast. He used to do it every Monday. Now he does, I think, Monday and Thursdays, right? He is one of the first podcasters. When he was podcasting his first episodes, at the time, he would do it. He would call into a number and record, right? And then there was a service that would transform that recording from your phone into an
MP3.
An MP3 that you could publish.
Download and put on your iPod.
This is way before anything. And
it's so wild how things have. I mean, we're here now in this recording setup that we have here, with thousands of dollars a year, and we start. I remember when we first started. I don't think you let me do this, but I was like, well, why don't we just talk at the computer and set up QuickTime?
Dude, when I listen back to our first few episodes, like Pixar, and I'm like, it sounds like we were just talking at the computer.
Yeah,
well, we basically were.
Yeah. That's when people are like, I have a lot of psychos that they're like, I start on number 1, and I go all the way through. I was like, oh, please don't. Please don't.
Yeah. If you're gonna do go in the opposite
This is one of the things I wanted to talk about. I used to
because that way, at least by the time you get to 1, you're a fan. But if you start at 1, you're like, oh, these guys just suck.
Yeah.
But it's almost like there's great pleasure in hearing something that you think is excellent and fully baked, and especially when it's been long running, you're like, oh, this has always been immaculate and perfect. And then you get to go see some of the early work, and you're like, oh, it's so
like what you were talking about. You want to go. You want the early Charlie.
I can see where the magic was, even though they didn't know yet.
It's the same thing you see in the books that you're reading, though. Sam Walton, when you tell the story where his landlord screws him over, and he goes, I'm not whipped. I found the store. I'll do it again. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, Walmart is a huge success. You guys made the point that there was a great point where it's like, you're never going to think 25 years in the future when there's watermelons and donkey crap on the ground that this is going to be the richest family in the world, right? If you
and the most standardized form of retail.
Yeah. And so you see that same guy that became the richest person in the world, that his now family has a rich family or whatever. It's like, he's imperfect too, just like I am. And so that is the only benefit of listening to an early acquired or early founders. Is like, oh, you see the improvement. Just like in the books, you see the improvement.
It's fun too. I like going back and listening to some of your old episodes. I get to see your journey, It's like, I'm proud of you.
Right.
But I've been thinking about that, and I was thinking about ahead of our conversation here, I used to say all the time, people are like, oh, I go back, I listen to the early episodes. I'm like, no, don't, it's so embarrassing. I actually think we always want to be embarrassed by our last episode. We've just constantly kept
raising the
every
bar.
episode, we try and just notch it up.
Because we keep picturing the stadium, and
right.
we're like,
that's why I think about the stadium, because I think about the pressure of we got to do better next time than we did this time.
And it's not just filled with Seattle's NFL fans. It's filled with hundreds of thousands of the smartest people that, and this gets to the psyche, the deep insecurities that at least I have of I want to impress those people. I want those people to think I'm smart, and so I have to produce something unbelievably worthwhile of their time. Mm-hmm. And the minute that I don't, I'm literally walking out in front of an NFL stadium full of people that I want to impress. And I didn't used to have that pressure, but once we found content market fit for Acquired with people that I've always thought highly of.
That's true.
That is the driver now.
There were a couple years where we kind of drifted. There wasn't that pressure to keep amping the bar, and then
you're right. It's the 2017 era.
Yeah.
I think you're never going to be embarrassed about your latest episode at the time we're making this is LVMH. You're never going to be embarrassed about that. That was excellent. And it doesn't mean you can't keep improving 10 years from now.
But no, I look back at that and I think yes, that's certainly an episode, I don't know how you feel, but that I'm proud of. But I look back, at the time, so we didn't know that was going to be a super popular episode.
Totally unpredictable. It's our because we haven't shared this publicly yet. It's our number one episode by a huge margin. 40,000 more people have listened to that episode than the next highest, which was Amazon.com. I probably could have told you. Actually, I was like, David, no one's going to listen to Amazon because everyone already knows this story, which was super wrong. But I either thought no one will listen to this one, or this will be our most successful episode. With LVMH, even after we recorded it, I was like, or after we edited it, because we had to edit a lot of stuff. I was like,
this is fun. This is how much we didn't know.
But it's not our best ever. But apparently,
I think it might be my favorite episode of yours. Oh. And I heard from a ton of other people how much they liked it. It's,
well, thank you.
It's really
but
good.
to the conversation, like, there's a bunch of stuff that we could have done better in that episode, like a whole bunch.
So I do this all the time where like I'll go back and listen to old episodes because people are like, that's weird you listen to a podcast. It's like, no, this is a tool.
That's how you get better.
This is
game footage.
No, we even try to get better. It's like, I was like, oh, I haven't read that book in like 2 years. I'll just listen to my episode on it. And it like serves as it's a tool for me. That's how I know it's good for other people, right? And so I was like, and then I'll listen to it. I'm like, oh, wow, I forgot that. I need to keep that idea in my mind. But I'll hear myself like, oh, you said that in 2 paragraphs. That could have been 1 paragraph. Cut that part. That doesn't make sense. And so, yeah, I understand the improvement. But what I'm saying is your quality is already super high. Like, it can increase and get better. Don't get me wrong. But, like, you're never going to be embarrassed. You're just like, oh, I could probably do it 20%, 30% better, which is still excellent from the level you're at.
So the way that we edit is our editor takes the first pass, and he's unbelievably good, and we're so lucky to have him. And then he sends us a rough cut. I upload it to Descript, and then we listen like and read while we're listening, word for word, sentence for sentence, and try to cut every unnecessary sentence. And we end up pulling out 20-ish minutes of just fluff. It's just like, okay, we could have been tighter in that point. Is there a way to get tighter in it without re-recording it? And I think that has dramatically contributed to episode quality, because by the time we ship it, neither of us feel that there are extraneous sentences.
So I don't know if I'm like that. Like,
you're still a one-man show, right? Like,
I do everything. No one touches anything. So like
everything,
so,
soup to nuts.
I'm gonna answer your question, but I also think like we should. This is a perfect point to like how we became friends and why. Like, I'm putting this out on my feed, and no one. You're going to be the first non-David Senra voices that I ever heard on Founders, and they only would agree to do it. And I only agree to do it with you guys, is because like this goes back to like why I want to be surrounded with, first of all, people that have like interest, super smart people, but also people that have like positive sum thinking, right? Patrick O'Shaughnessy has this gigantic, successful show, Invest Like the Best. He's got the Colossus Podcast Network. His fund is called Positive Sum, and that's how he acts. I joined his network. This is like months later, and they're like, hey, like we have editors, whatever. Like, he has like this empire over there, and resources. He's like, what do you want? And I was like, I just want you to amplify my audience and then connect me with first-rate advertisers, because like I think Acquired is a luxury podcast, maybe not luxury, premium. We got to go over the distinction there from LVMH, but like we're saying no, this is like we're trying to set the bar here. But anyways, he's like, hey, do you want editors? You want any of this stuff? I was like, no, I don't want. No one gets to touch my stuff. Like, people think, oh, like. Do they tell you what books to read? And like, no, Patrick liked my show, and he's just like, why would I tell you? Like, just whatever you're doing, just do it to more people now. And so to answer your question, no, like I pick the books, I record them, I edit. I'm still one-person show. I don't know if that'll happen forever, but I do think the fact that it just spend so much time with the material gets it in my brain. But the reason that like I want to talk about like the role you guys played in that, where we were getting on Zoom, and for like the background here is like, you know, we had known of each other. I talked to Ben a long time ago because he was running this private podcast. This is like years ago. And so anyways, we're like,
that's also funny to think back, like all the dead ends that we went, like we went down a ton of them. You went down a ton of them. You're about to talk about some of them. Like, there's so many dead ends.
But they're in the books too.
Yeah, but they're in the books. That's exactly.
Remember when we changed the name of the show to Adapting?
Oh my God, that was a dead end. That was on me. That one was on me.
Tell the story.
COVID happened, and we were like, no one wants to hear these stories of like extreme capitalism. Like, we're like the X Games of capitalism, and like this is a moment where like everyone is hurting, zero business, and like this isn't that the stock market trough too, where you're just like, wow, like, you know, all businesses are going to go under. No one's ever going to have jobs again. This is scary. And so we were like, well, like, what stories should we tell? How about businesses that are adapting to make it through this tough time? And to like show how serious we were about it, we changed the name of the show. It was like our 3 least listened to episodes, covering pretty amazing stories, but we just branded it wrong. Like, Canlis is like the most interesting restaurant story you could ever hear about. And like,
we did Intel.
That's the only time we've ever done Intel.
That's the only time we've done Intel.
But because it was adapting, it was stupid.
So stupid.
But there's no way to do learn rather than screw up.
Do you want to know the first name of Founders?
Ooh.
You know, like in your RSS feed, you can change the name, right? But you can't change the link. Like it'll still say. So you look at it from mine, and it's Autotelic. The worst name. Autotelic comes from this book called Flow.
How do you even spell that?
Telic, maybe. I don't know. I can't spell, pronounce. I have no grammar. So I'd be like, you read so much. I was like, I don't pay attention to any of that stuff.
Is that the Mihai?
Yes. The guy that flow.
Mihai?
Yes. It is an activity that you do for the sake of itself. Going back to your questions, like why, like I just love to read. I'm going to do this if no one listens. Like that's how I know I'm going to win, because it's like people are like, oh, would you do it for free? It's like, I paid to do this. Like,
for like a long time.
For a long time. Like I literally said, I'm going to quit. And I have the savings, I have a wife and a baby, or a daughter to support. Now I have a son, a wife, a daughter, and a son. And I was like, I bet you, I just put trust in myself. It's just like, I'm going to, if I focus on this 7 days a week, I'll figure out the business model. I know, like, I don't think I'll ever get rich from it, but I will at least pay my bills, right? And so like every month I'm like, oh, less money there. And like, so I paid to do it. So the idea where like, you know, again, people get, I think Steve Jobs talks about this, like the older he gets, he said something like the older he gets, the more he realizes why people do things matters. And so he's always asking those questions. Like I always say, it's like, how do you know that you found what you love to do? And people are like, oh, because like I wouldn't sell my company. It's like, okay, there's another level. It's like, how much would you have had to pay Steve Jobs to stop working at Apple? The answer is he wouldn't take all the money in the world. How much would you have to pay Charlie Munger?
A lot of people tried to stop Steve Jobs from working at Apple.
Yeah, but like think about that. Like the idea is like he's not doing it for money. He's in a different game. He's doing it for the sake of itself. And so I went through a bunch of different names. History's greatest men, history's greatest, like history, all this, these terrible names. And I just started narrowing it more and more and more to like founders. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. There is a
because you weren't even like you weren't coming from the tech world. You weren't like this wasn't content marketing.
It was just like the idea I had known about like Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, and all these other people. And I remember you had Kevin Rose on your show a long time ago. So you guys remember if he would have
not that long ago, maybe a year and a half.
Yeah. It just time flies.
Because it was post. He was during
COVID.
He was pretty much already fully Web3 by the time we.
So do you guys remember Foundation?
Yeah, of course.
It was like one of the first high quality.
Yeah.
Like imagine if he would have stuck with that show. Like you know what I mean? Like it would have been a monster.
And it's like the only episodes that ever came out was like, here's me interviewing Elon Musk. Here's me interviewing Sam Altman. Here's me, and like these people, and also before they became like icons
Elon had the
of our
Model
time.
S. That's it. Elon had the model. That was the only thing. He was just about to release the Model S.
He had the Roadster.
No, they were in the factory because I watched it all the time. They were in the factory building the Model S.
That's right.
So it was, I don't know if you could buy it yet, but it was like coming or whatever. And Elon looks way younger and like, you know. And then in 2015, Tim Ferriss, I was a big fan of his podcast. I'd read like, 4 Hour Work Week. Yep. I remember the way I discovered...
4 Hour Body changed my life.
Did it?
Yeah.
With its low carb?
Yep, slow carb diet.
I did that too.
Slow carb diet, cold showers. Like I did. And the funniest thing is like, this is like this whole cold plunge thing that's like becoming a thing now. I'm like, was nobody like reading Tim Ferriss in 2011?
Yeah.
Like that was a huge part of...
Well, it goes back. Only our demographic was.
Yeah.
Actually, that made me think of something. Let me interrupt this story because I think it's really important. You're like, oh, is anyone going to listen to our, like, no one's going to listen to our Amazon episode. They already know it. And so this is something that like, and then it becomes the most successful.
Are you going to quote Ogilvy?
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
I've listened to enough founders to know.
Yeah, because it's like, this is so key that people don't understand. It's like you're not advertising to Standing Army, you're advertising to Moving Parade. And so like I will literally get on calls with like media company founders that are like selling ads or like building companies. And I'm like, oh yeah, you must have read Ogilvy. They're like, what? And I was like, these are not new lessons. Like if and again, this comes from the humility to realize, hey, Warren Buffett's smarter than me. So if that dude in his shareholder letters is saying, David Ogilvy's a genius, I'm like, wait a minute, this dude, how many businesses has Warren Buffett looked at that point? How many founders and managers has he looked at? And he's like, this dude's a genius.
Yeah.
This is not rocket science, guys. Just go and like, let's search David Ogilvy in Amazon. 5 books? Good. Order them all.
These days, it's search David Ogilvy in your podcast player of choice. Like,
I went to.
Wait, but explain the Standing Army versus.
So you're not advertising to Standing Army, you're advertising to Moving Parade. But what happens is like, even when you put on the Sequoia episode, right? Me and David went on a hike in Stanford, and I was like, dude, you have this crazy back catalog. Every single day, you have more people following your podcast feed than you had the day before. I was like, because I knew this because I was a subscription podcast, right?
Recount briefly your business model journey.
So I'll give you the shorter breakdown because like I went through so many of them. I just put a hard paywall, listen to the first 30 minutes. You want to listen to all of them, then you pay, right? And it converted.
And this is when we had that chat that you were talking about.
We got to go back to that.
We were like, dude,
you're doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah, because there's been times like this one where we're like, what the hell are you doing? But there's been other times where you come to us and you're like, do you know how good your Sequoia episodes were? And like the fact that you have 4 times the audience that you have now, and none of the 75% of those people have ever heard the Sequoia episode. What are you doing?
And so you guys, we had this hike. This is an Ogilvy idea. Remember, not my idea. I don't get like. Everything has already been done, guys. Just pay, and I'm speaking to the people listening, not you. You obviously know it's like they've already been done. Just go see. Hey, that person's smart. He learned from 40-year career. Like you're not gonna. The idea is you're not gonna pick up an idea you can use is silly. So I told
David.
Think,
though, I was thinking about this. There's some cases where it's not true, but I think most truly like iconic, world-changing businesses and founders. They stand on the shoulders of giants, but they have one or multiple things that is novel that they come up with.
It's the combination of these ideas, like Sam Walton taking Soul Price's ideas and his competitors' ideas, and like, hey, what about you guys are kind of ignoring these like 4,000 person communities? I'm pretty sure like the thesis behind Walmart is like, will they just drive far distances just to save money?
Right.
The answer is yes.
Right.
5 hours.
Right. But that isn't a novel idea.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole thing.
It's combining like one big novel idea with a bunch of other things that
you guys combined David Ogilvy's idea by republishing your Sequoia podcast. And then you text me, you're like, oh my God, like the downloads are crazy.
Yeah.
And because the vast majority, because you're not podcasting to a standing army, you're podcasting to a moving parade. And so I had known this because through my experimentation, I would take an old episode that I had done, do a preview, throw it up, and you'd get conversions every time because it was new to them. And that was like, so Ogilvy, I credit Ogilvy for that idea. That's an idea he got from Claude Hopkins and Albert Lasker, who were building advertising businesses 50 years before him.
Is this scientific advertising?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also a good Founders episode.
Yeah. He's excellent. That book, Scientific Advertising, sold like 8 or 10 million copies. They kept it in Albert Lasker. So Claude Hopkins worked for Albert Lasker. Albert Lasker thought the book was so good, he stored it in a vault. He wouldn't let, and he's like, he built.
Because it was like the secrets of the industry, right? Like, don't publish this because we don't want this getting out.
I learned that because in Ogilvy and Advertising, at the very end of the book, David's like, here, these are the 6 giants that I learned from. So I was like, oh, okay, well then I'm going to Google search. I'm going to read this book. This is not rocket science again. So then he's like, oh, Albert Lasker made more money than anybody else in the history of the advertising business. I was like, hold up. What? How?
Also, none of us know this guy's name.
Yeah. And so then you realize it's like, he says in the book, he's like, his estate outside of Chicago was so big, he had 40 full-time employees. I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, make these words make sense in my mind. That doesn't make any sense to me. So then you read Albert Lasker, and then he tells you about Claude Hopkins. He's like, yeah, the information was so good that like I stored that in my vault for 20 years. And then once he sold his advertising, or I think he gave it away like a token, like $100,000, to the people working there. And then they released it, and Claude went off on his own and everything else. So these are not like...
Yeah. Okay, so you were doing the 30-minute hard cutoff when we...
And so when
it's so unsatisfying. It's like, I'm going to listen to 30 minutes of this episode, and then like I have to get... Someone's asking me to pay for the rest.
Good conversion, right?
The conversion rates were higher, but you guys said this is where...
You were at a local maximum.
This is where like you were very helpful. Like, David, first of all, and you guys are nice. This is not the language you use. You're like, you idiot. Like, that's just like... but you guys are so nice. So it's like, dude, you're doing it wrong. Listen, for every one person... I think it was Ben that said this. It's like, for every one person that would buy a podcast, there's 1,000 or 100 that would listen to them for free. Like, just...
It's about 100.
Yeah, probably even more than that, And so then you guys would show me, like, you open the kimono. You're like, these are our downloads. This is who we advertise with. This is what we charge for advertising. You just like...
Well, the other really key insight is, so after spending a bunch of time with originally Kimberlite, then Glow, which got sold to Libsyn, and still what powers the Acquired LP program, an interesting learning is most podcasts should generate about 50% of their revenue from direct monetization, some kind of membership program, or paywalling their feed, and about half from advertising. And the math should sort of work out where that's going to be the case. For the type of podcast that we are, where you have lots of founders and CEOs and hedge fund managers and these sorts of people listening, you could never ask someone to pay you in membership what they are worth to the most valuable advertiser for that slot. And so the way it sort of works out is like you're massively hamstringing your monetization potential if you make it membership only, because you'd have to be like, Yes, please pay $2,000 to $5,000 a year in order to get access to this private thing, versus if you were to take that same piece of content and open it up to advertisers.
You made the good point earlier, and we can elaborate on that, right? Why you're so psychotic about this sentence needs to get out of here, like these two sentences, let's remove it, because if you could factor in the average hourly rate of the people in your audience, it is unbelievable. So even I think if you make $1 million a year, and we know people obviously in our audiences make a lot more than that, but I think $1 million a year is what, $500 an hour or something like that. I don't know the math. I'm not a good math person, but like, so you're asking if they listen to an hour-long podcast of founders, it's like, that's $500. Like, you cannot waste these people's time. So I never answer your question when you're like, hey, how do you guys think about this? Do you re-edit or do you cut them out? I use the script as well. I actually think the way I listen to founders is obviously listening to it and listening and reading. Like, the superpower of podcasts is you can listen to it when you're doing something else.
But when you're editing,
but I think I'm going to put all my podcasts up on YouTube. I don't have any video, but I think I'm going to use the script. So like, there is like, some people have success just putting up the audio and like a static picture, and you can listen to it on YouTube. But I also think I was like, well, if I'm going to do that, I might as well just I have this, and that's kind of cool if you want to use it but don't have to.
We did not find success doing that. Like, this episode will be the first episode this year that's on YouTube, because we basically said if there's not interesting video, then it's not a video podcast, and you can go find it in a podcast player.
I'm using it just for search, and I would use
smart.
I don't think I'm ever gonna do video anything, because it's just like, it's so much simpler to do. Literally, what I'm saying is like, I'm gonna upload the MP3 to YouTube. Like, I'm not making a video just because they're eventually gonna have, they're not stupid, they're eventually gonna have like the podcast player inside of YouTube. Like, they released this like 40-page document I read on their podcast goals on YouTube. Did I send it to you guys?
No.
I'll send it to you guys. So right now I have YouTube Premium, so you can listen to them in the background like a podcast player.
Which is great.
But they need to have podcast functionality. It's still like a video. So anyways, the way I do it is like, yes, I'm very aware that who's listening. I'm not ever going to waste a lot of their time. And what I've found with the more practice I have for the podcast is I'm able to edit on the fly. Like, I don't have a script, right? So like, I'll go through the book, I highlight, then write down whatever pops in my mind. I don't first of all, the highlights, like, am I excited about that? Oh, that's interesting. Highlight. Just go off instinct, right? Yeah. And then write down like something that, oh, that's like this, or that made me think of this, and I just write it down, right? Then I'll reread all these highlights the night before I record. So it's like the second time.
You're doing this in physical books,
Physical
right?
books, yeah.
But you're putting your notes into Readwise?
That happens after.
Okay.
That happens after. So the fifth time, every single book I do, I think I read the highlights 5 times. And the fifth time is me actually taking pictures of the physical book and putting it in Readwise. So I was thinking about this yesterday because I'm also slightly obsessed with Jeff Bezos. And
You're slightly obsessed with a lot of founders.
That's why we were like, we're sitting in chairs, like, dude, I'm going to be forward.
Yeah, we were setting up the camera angles before.
Because you know what I love? Like,
we're like, we got to move David's chair back here a little bit.
Have you ever watched the old Jeff Bezos interviews when he's like first starting Amazon? He's like skinny and balding.
The one that's like in that field outside the conference.
Yes, I think this is the one. He's like sitting, like you see grasping on him. I don't know if he's in a field. So, but he like leans forward. And he's like, we're going to be the most customer-obsessed company ever. It's like,
and he's got that look on his face.
That's how I am about founders. I'm like,
But you're like, that dude's a psycho.
But Jeff says something that he is. But Jeff says something in Invent and Wander, which is an excellent book because it's all of his shareholder letters and transcripts of his speeches.
Walter Isaacson edited that, right?
Yep. And all of his transcripts of his speeches. And he goes, do you really want to live in a world or to compete against somebody that's as good as you? Like, I certainly wouldn't. That's what he states. And he's like, if you read his shareholder letters and listen to him talk, he's like, he's constantly looking for unfair advantages.
Yep.
And I think part of the fact that I have now over 20,000 highlights from hundreds of books, and I still have like 50 or 60 or maybe 80 books I haven't put in there yet that are in my library. So it's like, that's my Readwise account is an unfair advantage because anytime somebody's talking, it's like, I can immediately, oh, you said something, I search for that term and it pulls up. And it's like, oh, and then I see my highlight and I see my note. It takes so long.
Yeah.
Like, so long to do that, but it's worth the extra 5 or 10 hours
And that's integrated into your process of making founders.
Yes, because I'm reading something, I remember, no, I know I've seen this before, I can't remember it. Type in that term, and it pulls up every single instance
It's
of
like a
it.
brain
So
outside
it's
your
an
brain.
unfair advantage that I have with me all the time. And what I'll do is, like, whenever I'm, like, waiting for an Uber today, right? Just pull up Readwise, and Readwise has the highlights feed. And I'll show you guys what it looks like. It looks a lot like a Twitter feed, right? Completely random. So I'm not choosing this. And instead of me reading Twitter all day, which is not a good use of your time, it's this highlight from the Dodge Brothers. I haven't read that book. That was like episode, probably in like the 115th. Billy Durant, who's the founder of GM. Sam Colt.
And so are these ones that other people have liked a lot?
No.
So therefore...
No.
It's just
This is
repopulating
mine.
your own.
Yes.
Oh,
so it's my
that's
form of
awesome.
practice.
So you've got.
So let me give you an
like,
example.
A healthy Twitter there on your phone. So is
And-
that what like? How many times a day? Like how often are you just pulling up Readwise and
Almost every day, and if I'm not doing it on Readwise, I'll go to like my bookshelves. So what will happen is, you can pull a book off my shelf, and I'm thinking about this for like my kids. Long after I'm gone, my kids can like, what was my dad into? And they can go back and see, oh, and when he was 35 or 38, this is the podcast he made. Let me go find that book. And then they can pull off the shelf like, oh, this is the line he thought was interesting. Oh, wow, you see dad's handwriting here. And like, so I use this for myself where I can pick up a book and quote unquote reread it in 30 minutes by rereading my highlights and notes. And now I'm like, it's back like in front of mine. And then what happens is like, you can do this anytime. Like people are like, oh, I'm running late for lunch. Like I'll just do this, or I'll answer DMs, or I always have stuff to do with me. But I use it as a form of practice. The reason I said this is like, it sounds stupid. People think it's maybe they think it's silly. I don't know. But I read this book. It's episode 212 of Founders. It's called Michael Jordan: The Life. It's a 600-page biography, and in that book,
you just have like this encyclopedia knowledge too of the numbers of your episodes, which I'm so impressed by.
I don't. It's only because I reference that all the time. So if you look up something over and over again,
Yeah.
it's repetition. Everything in life is repetition. Sam Walton's career is repetition. Like it's like, I just think you're trying to. This is what I asked Charlie. Like, one of the most interesting things he said. He's like, one of the best things that ever happened to me is I got rich later in life. Like he saw the
What do you mean
time
by
and
that?
how difficult it was. Like he was talking about like, imagine you being like super famous or rich when you're like 21 or 25 and how disorienting. He's like, I was a full grown man, like with life experiences with a wife and kids.
He had a child who died.
Yeah, I
before he
did
got
not
rich.
mention that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like he had all like full life experience, and therefore also the main problem that happens is people don't know. They're like, I was the son of a poor man, now I'm rich, and my kids live an unbelievable amount of wealth and privilege. How do I deal with that? That comes up in the books for hundreds of years. The answer is no one knows, right? And so with Charlie, though, the benefit is he didn't have a famous last name or a lot of wealth. His kids were like grown.
Right.
They wouldn't have to deal with that when you're 5 or 7 or 10. He also gave me some advice that was fascinating.
You do that, like, you got to pay that bill eventually, though. Like, his grandkids have to.
Well, so how do you deal with this, though, right? Like, he's multi-billionaire. Like, that's an insane...
Right. This is a 5-generation problem.
Not only is he a multi-billionaire, he's like, people like us talk for hours about him. He's like a celebrity.
So I just read this fantastic book. I like reading obscure books because go back to what Jeff Bezos said, differentiation is survival. So like I'll find like weird books. Like me and Sam were in this weird, I was searching for books for you guys yesterday. I couldn't find any. I will order them and bring them to you because I always bring books. And we went to 3 different bookstores. I'm not kidding. Like
You brought energy drinks instead.
But no, we literally like blessed Sam and his patience with me, and like drove me all around Menlo Park and Palo Alto yesterday, going to bookstores. Like I was literally looking for you guys.
What a
Like you had
great-
specific books
Oh
in
my
mind.
gosh.
No. I like going to used bookstores, and then
just
like
see
I
what's-
think of
Yeah.
how my interpretation of you guys in my mind, and I just know if this book is good for that person. Like the Charlie Munger or the Henry Flagler book, I knew that was good for Charlie Munger because of what he said. So I don't know what's going to happen. Now I do have 2 books picked out for you guys, which I'll send you, but they're like newer books. But anyways,
By the way, that sounds like a great day. Driving around with Sam, Pinky, and going to bookstores. Like, what better day could you spend?
Also, the peninsula is like beautiful. So like,
yeah, and like Sam's unbelievably intelligent, and like she's got a weird alien brain. As I always tell him, our mutual friend Mitchell Baldrich, that all 3 of us know, says Sam has a giga brain. I think is
I've heard him say that before.
I think that's what he said. His description of it. But I like obscure books. I read this book that's very hard to find. It's like $300. It's called The Invisible Billionaire. Daniel Ludwig was the richest person in the world in the 80s, and no one knew who he was. He paid public relations firm to keep his name out of the papers. Okay,
Do what your competitors don't.
yeah. So he's just like, I don't want to be known. And a lot of his was like shipping and oil and refining and mining and all that other stuff. But the author makes the point in the book like how different $1 million and $1 billion is. Going back to Charlie Munger, right?
yeah.
And he goes, a stack of $1 million and a stack of $100 bills is like 40 inches. $1 billion and a stack of $100 bills would be 3 times taller than the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
And so like for us, like, oh, that guy's kind of rich. It's like, no, the billionaire and millionaires are not in the same category. It's so disorienting.
This is also a thing where like the English language has done us a disservice by naming two things that are 1,000 times different, very similar words.
It sounds similar.
Yeah.
So
they're not similar at all.
What was a lot of people are asking, and like think about all the wealthy people that Charlie talks to, and they're asked like, okay, what do I do with like this wealth with my kids? And it's like, you know, is it if you give your kids a bunch of money, is it going to demotivate them? And Charlie goes, of course it's going to. So he's like, but he's like, you know, it's like, again, like this should be obvious to you. So he says, I don't try to steer his kids or his grandkids into what they should do for a living, which is Charlie Munger's one of his best piece of advice that I took to heart. It's like follow your natural drift.
Yeah.
Like how I pick books. There's been like 15 or 20 that I've read completely or half, and it's like, I don't like this book. I'm not making an episode about it. I go to my bookshelf, and I have like probably 80 or 100 books I haven't read yet. Most come from the audience. And I was like, what am I most excited to learn about now? Yep. And that's how I pick it, right? So following natural drift.
Which is also more or less how we pick episodes too. We have a little bit more planning because now like there's such long lead times, but it's kind of like, what's interesting to us right now?
Yeah.
100%. So he's like, you know, don't try to steer them too much. And he's like, he definitely feels that some of them are going to be less motivated because they're born rich. But he said this was the most surprising thing. But he goes, you have to give them the money anyways, or they're going to hate you for it. And I was like, that's like, because my answer before this, I've read so many like family dynasty stories, and I'm not saying I'm trying to build
where
a
they
dynasty.
decide we're not going to give the money.
Or no, they did, and it ruined them. Like, did you guys haven't done an episode
That's the
on
common case.
TCI, John
Not yet.
Malone,
No,
Cable Cowboy?
Yeah.
That's like that will happen this year.
For sure.
So you know why? That was one of the books that was recommended the most. They're like, you gotta do Cable Cowboy, you gotta do Cable Cowboy, you gotta do
We
Cable
both
Cowboy.
have read the book. It's awesome.
It's excellent. And so you know the story I'm about to tell you, where the crazy thing is like, I'm always thinking about, I didn't understand this before dedicating my life to studying history, right? Where it's like, oh wow, the decisions I'm making now can reverberate through the generations. That's a crazy thing. Where Bob Magnus, which is the founder of TCI, this he doesn't have any money. He's in rural Texas, wants to do this, jump into this new industry, cable, right? Full of cowboys, like literal cowboys. Literally. And he doesn't have money, so his dad gives him a $2,500 loan. So Bob takes that $2,500 loan, and then let's say 40 years later, Bob dies, and he's got to pass on his money, right? That was created from the company he created to his two kids. And he winds up giving them, I think, I don't know the numbers, I want to say like $200 million each, two sons. So think about that one decision. I think I talked about it in the episode, and if I didn't, it's a big mess up on my part. And I stopped in that part.
I'm pretty sure you did.
I was like, hold on. Think about that. Like, what if his dad didn't give him the $2,500?
Yeah,
He's
you
like,
talked about this.
Yeah, so his $2,500 turns into $400 million, let's say $200 million each for his grandsons. Change his grandsons' lives.
Right. So that means, rule of thumb, you take like, I don't know, you probably have 3 more generations after that of wealth guaranteed.
That wealth is gone because I think it went up their nose. Like that was so
it's pretty hard in one generation.
But I don't know. Like the point was, it's like that wasn't good for them because they were not motivated. They did a bunch of drugs. I think they went to jail, like that kind of stuff. And you see that so much. So my thought was like, oh, like get them a little bit, but not enough that they don't have to work or whatever. And Charlie's like, they're gonna hate you.
Yeah.
And like, what's
That's
the point?
such a good insight. Like,
He's just like human nature. This is my biggest takeaway from Charlie, and I think the biggest benefit that people that listen to Founders and Acquired and then hopefully read a bunch of the books and do studying on their own are going to realize. This is like, Charlie, I said it at the top of my notes, and this is the first thing. It's just like, it's comforting. The conversation I had with Charlie was comforting the same way that people tell me listening to Founders is comforting. Is like, Charlie has an almost complete indifference to problems. Troubles from time to time should be expected. This is inescapable, so why would you let it bother you? And the difference, and if you think about, that's the main takeaway from this 3-hour dinner I had with him, right? And if you think about how does he avoid this? He avoids it by great things have less problems. You're never going to escape problems, but if you're around great people, like they're not going to throw up, just like a great business doesn't throw up big problem after big problem after big problem. Your wife, your kids, your friends, your coworkers, his whole thing is aim for the highest quality you can get. And then that's going to solve 99% of your problems. And then when you have the problem, the inevitable problems are still going to come. Okay, you just deal with it.
Yep.
He talked about like when he lost the money on Alibaba. He brought that up. You know, that people try to make fun of him for or whatever. It's like, you guys are missing the point. Like you're not going to escape, get through life without making mistakes. The founder of IKEA has this great quote where he says, making mistakes is the privilege of the active. only those asleep make no mistakes.
Yeah. It's a version of the man in the arena.
Yeah.
The Teddy Roosevelt
idea.
thing.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the ideal way to handle it if at 35 someone becomes very wealthy, and so when their kid's memory starts around age 3, so for their entire kid's memorable lifetime they've grown up in wealth and privilege? Like, how does one handle that?
I have no idea. Like, I don't. Me even giving you an answer to that is like, there's this guy named Charles Kettering, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I read his biography, I think it's episode 127 or something like that. So he invented the electric starter. He founded AC Delco, that gets acquired by GM.
Right.
He is the head of research and development at GM when GM is the most valuable company and most, like the cutting edge of technology company in the world at the time. There's a story from his wife and his daughter in that book saying, hey, when he dies, there's only going to be 3 words on his tombstone. I don't know. Because that's what he would say over and over and over again. And he's having this conversation, same thing. He was the son of a poor man. He is now a rich man. His kids are rich. He's talking to other people that had the same experience, his peers. They're like, what do you do? And the answer they came up with, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it's so dependent on who the person is.
Right.
Like, maybe you give them money going to Bob Magnus's grandsons. Maybe they're like Warren Buffett's kids, where like they run foundations and they want to give the money away. And I don't think they're coke addicts. I don't know, but like, it's just dependent on the person. So if there was a correct answer, I think some of these guys and gals would have figured it out.
Well, that's the thing about humans, right? Like, every person is different.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have no idea. Really, and that's the biggest thing where I think this is one of the lessons I learned from the podcast where, you mentioned this at the beginning, Ben, where most of these people are just they're like best in class in this one dimension in the world. And of course, to get that, they had to be poured. They couldn't optimize all other areas of the life at what they did for like their work, right? Sam Walton's one of the rare guys where he gets to the end. He knows he's dying because he's got cancer all over his body when he's writing that book.
Yeah.
And he's like, listen, if I could do everything again, he's like, yeah, I missed some of my kids' childhood. They worked in the stores and he took them with him, but he's like, I'd do it again. It's like, I had to do this. I had to get after it. I had to improve. A lot of them, get to the end of their life and like, I regret. The founder of IKEA has the best words on this. He said, I had 3 sons growing up. He started IKEA when he was like 17, worked on it until he was like 80 something. And he's like, I sacrificed my 3 sons' childhoods. I regret it. He goes, anybody that has kids knows that childhood does not allow itself to be reconquered. And so like we were hanging out today, we were going to do a recording, go to dinner. And my plan was I want to see my son. He's like, and my daughter. It's like, I'm going to take the red eye. And then I realized, it's like, yeah, but I want to spend time with David and Ben, so I'm leaving early tomorrow morning. But it's like, I'm doing this as fast as possible. And if I had to, I'd like fly back and forth because like your kids think about like the relationship you guys have with your parents. Are they still alive?
Yep.
Okay. So you get to talk to them, see them, but you have your whole life, right?
Right.
When your kids are small, there's like this tiny window when they're like 2 to 5 to 6 where you're everything to them.
Oh, yeah.
Even
you and I have talked about it. I absolutely feel this way.
Even my 10-year-old daughter, like right now, she wants to spend time with me. Like, it was the cutest thing ever. I was leaving, going to LA to see Charlie, and then coming up to San Francisco to see you guys. And she texts me, she goes, I'm wearing your sweater because like it makes me feel close to you, like while you're gone. You know what I mean? But if you ask her, do you want to spend movie night with dad and mom, or do you want to go play Roblox with your friends? Every
sure,
time.
the latter.
They're friends. And she loves me, don't get me wrong, but like their friends are they're really important to them.
Yeah.
Where like every day I miss, my son's about to turn 3, it's like, I'm not going to get back that day. And there's only like 1,000 of those days.
Yeah.
And my wife won't have any more kids, even though I was like, I don't want a bunch of kids. Like, what's that?
Like Charlie.
I was like, I want a bunch. And it's like, no way. I say, hey, I don't have to get pregnant, so that's fine.
Something that Buffett and Munger did with the Graham Group that like was way ahead of its time that now anybody can do is they formed their social networks outside of geographic barriers.
Yeah.
And they found their like most compatible, most like-minded, highest level of talent, peers. Mm-hmm. And then they just like got on planes and got to go see them, and like that was really hard to do back in the day. And now anybody can do it. It's kind of like the Bill Gurley, you have no excuse not to do that.
You also, but here's the thing, what people get wrong is they're like, oh, I want to meet this guy. You have to do the work necessary to make them worth your time, right? Which is like the unfair advantage that the three people sitting in this room have is that it doesn't matter. That's why I've like in the last 6 weeks, I've gone to lunch or dinner with multiple billionaires. This is like, and the people that like you get to talk to and all this stuff, it's just like, this dude is crazy. He's read 300 biographies of entrepreneurs. There's no way I'm gonna have dinner with him and not pick up one idea.
Yep.
Like, and then now I've built this machine where like, oh, that's an interesting idea. I'll just plug it into this business. And like, it's not a financial transaction by any means, but there's no, the reason it's not that like, Charlie was the first person I met that I was actually nervous about. And it's the reason I'm not nervous is because I know I've done the work. Like you can't put me in a room with anybody on the planet and I'm not gonna be able to tell them at least one interesting thing. It doesn't mean I'll be the best dinner they've ever had in their life. That's not what I'm saying. It's just like, they're gonna hear something that's like, oh, that's interesting, and like goes to their own brain. And it's only because I've spent 6 years, and same with you guys. It's like, oh, you should feel comfortable. Like you guys mentioned earlier, it's like, your audience feels like 2 football fields, and like, oh, it's a little bit of like, not you didn't use the word insecurity, but like a little like nervousness. I want these people to like me. It's just like,
oh
do you know
it's like a fear pushing you from behind.
But like you've most likely read you know more about the subject than they do.
Sure, I do, but I need to make something worthy of their time.
Yes, that is an admirable.
It's like who cares? I could spend all the time in the world and fail to synthesize the narrative and the takeaways, and all of a sudden, then I've just, then I've failed them. Regardless of how much work I did, the product wasn't good. And so that's the thing.
It's hard to not have the product be good because you did the work. I guess is my point.
I think we now have a process that means that when you and I put in the work, the product is good, but it took a long time to arrive at that. It's almost like this is another Sam Hinkie thing. Trust the process.
Yep. I guess the point I was making there though is like because you guys do so much preparation and like it's now your life's work, like it's just so much. It's going to be so hard not to add value to the people in your lives, whether it's like friends that never show up on a podcast or friends that like you don't have a business relationship with. It's like, and like you're just going to add value because what you do is so rare. Like Naval Ravikant has this, he's influenced my thinking a lot too. And he has this thing in the Almanac of Naval by our friend Eric Jorgensen.
Yep.
And he's just like, if you read an hour a day, that puts you in the 0.0001% of humans. And I'm like, that can't be true.
Yeah. No, that's the dirty secret of Acquired and Founders is that people don't read books. So if you just read them and then tell people what's in the books, you're going to 100x the market for books.
And I couldn't believe that. I was having dinner with the same friend that was telling me, like I told him, like, I'll try to build a business around like my reading. This is like a couple months ago. And he's like, you vastly overestimate how much people read. He goes, how many books a year do you think the average person reads? I was like, I don't know, 12?
It's 1.
It's like 0.5.
It's 0.
I remember asking a book publisher, he said, America reads a book a year.
He quoted some other study. I said 12. He's like, no, not 12. He's like, it's 0. They average is 0.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's crazy. And yeah, to your point, I've become friends with a bunch of writers. Some of them I met through the podcast. And they've been telling me, like teaching me about the publishing industry and just breaking down, like 98% of books ever published sell less than 5,000 copies. It's power law, everything.
The book business is the venture business. Which is so interesting to me how the advance model works. It's like quite similar to a seed financing. I mean, they put out $50,000 for an advance on your book, which is covers your cost of living while you're writing it, and like they kind of don't care about recouping it because
it's even worse.
The whole business is about did I sign up James Clear this year.
Yeah.
And like, when you have Michelle Obama on your hands and you have to pay for it, but you don't know when you have a James Clear on your hands.
Yeah.
And when that becomes the book that America reads this year, you better make sure it's in your publishing house and not one of the other 3 big or 4 big, whatever it is, publishing houses.
Seed funding is better because their advances are recoupable.
Right.
So it's like this, I was having this long conversation.
It's the most preferred stock.
We were talking before.
It's participating preferred. Actually.
We were talking before we started recording. I was like, man, Jimmy Soni would be great to do a sessions with just because he's got this historical knowledge of PayPal being so important to like Silicon Valley history. And we were talking about this, and he's like, no, like I have to pay that back through sales. I'm like, oh, because the thing is, going back to like, you guys listen to Gamecraft, Blake Robbins?
Oh yeah, and every episode.
Yep.
So excellent. Like,
so good.
Unbelievably good. And what I loved about it is how they focused on the business model innovations and how one decision by some random group of programmers in the 1980s affected a business model decision 10 years later or whatever. Yep. And I was talking to Jimmy about this. I go, the books are fantastic. They're the best products in the world. You can. There's a great quote in Poor Charlie's Almanac, which says that there's ideas worth billions in a $30 history book. For Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, that is literally true, right?
Yep.
And what I don't understand is like you guys have such a high value product and you haven't innovated on the business model at all.
Yeah.
And so I was telling Jimmy, I was like, do you know the deal? Like you think about this as like an entrepreneur. Like you're not a writer, you're an entrepreneur, and your product just happens to be a book. But you can make money off that any kind of way you want. Like you can just get creative. I go, people think it's crazy where I'm like, I'm trying to be the Jay-Z of podcasts, and people are like, what the hell is wrong with you? And I did like that episode.
Have you done episodes on Jay-Z?
That episode I did on Jay-Z's autobiography is one of my most popular. People listen to it 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
I love Jay-Z and I love you, so like I can't believe I haven't listened to that episode.
Jay-Z has founder mentality, and he had it since he was a kid.
100%,
and you just see everything his whole career. And people look at him and like, oh, like this is another thing about intelligence manifests itself in vastly different ways. It's not always like credentialed. In many cases, it's not, right? But like Jay-Z is a straight up genius if you listen to him and what he did. And he looked at it, he's like, yeah, he says it from the get-go. He's like, I thought I told you characters, I'm not a rapper. He's like, I'm a businessman and rap just happens to be my product. And so I'm going to think about it like that. I go, Jimmy, you should do that. I go, why don't you just find a deal like Jay-Z did with Samsung? He's like, what are you talking about?
Well, that's like true founders, entrepreneurs, whatever, founders in your case, the title you want to put them, they care about ownership. Like they own their work.
And you realize that the business model matters, which is why I brought up Gamecraft. So what Jay-Z did, this is years ago. This is his Magna Carta Holy Grail, probably came out in 2013. So he goes, I could record this album and then I could sell it like normal, stream it and then sell it for $10 if you want the physical copy, et cetera, et cetera. He goes, what if I just want my money guaranteed? So he goes to Samsung and says, Samsung, you're launching this new app, this new phone, and you have your own app on it. I will sell you 1 million copies, $5 each. You give me $5 million guaranteed from an album. I'm still going to own it, so he gets the streaming rights. He goes, and so what I'll do is like, you pay me $5 million. The first 1 million people that get access to my album are going to be Samsung, to have whatever phone was coming out. You download it for free if you have this device. And so it's advertising to the Samsung, and it's guaranteed money to him. I go, dude, you're writing about technology founders. I was like, there's these venture capital funds that have $80 billion of assets under management. It's like, hey, will you pay me $1 million to write this book? And then you say, hey, this book is now presented by whatever firm. This is why me and you us three have talked about this privately. You guys already know this was like, there's been like something like 15 acquisition or investment offers for founders. I said no to every single one. A lot of them are like this, where it's like, oh, well, you have the attention of people that are valuable. You just said the worst thing that can happen to a venture firm is they miss the hit of that, so they have to expand. Like they have to make sure they catch that, right? So it's like, hey, we'll pay for founders or whatever, give you X amount of money, pay you to do it. You do exactly what you do. The only difference is essentially they're trying to buy up ad inventory forever. It's like, hey, founders is presented by X company. If you're going to raise money, email here. You know. And the response I had when I get these pitches is like, if I did that, that means I'm not actually learning the lessons in the books. Right. Which is like, you never give up control. It's like, no,
that's
why would I ever
interesting.
do that?
Let's dive into a deal structure on that. So like, what if you weren't giving up control, and what if you weren't giving up economics forever? You're just doing a period of time buyout of all your ad inventory.
This is the intelligent thing. This is what Tegas is doing with Invest Like the Best.
Yeah.
And this is why, like, it's crazy to me when I talk to people and they don't understand this. I had a conversation with a founder, and he's like, it's really weird. I'm not going to say who it was. He's like, it's really weird that this company is running ads on that podcast every single episode forever. And I'm like,
not at all.
And I go, see,
moving parade, not standing army.
I go, David Ogilvy ran the same exact ad in the same magazine for 30 years, and it was still effective. And so I was like, I go, what do you think Coca-Cola's been doing for 100? This is not new ideas. So
either Coca-Cola is really dumb, or
exactly.
And I don't think they're dumb.
And I talked to
Apple has the prime billboard in every major city in America to advertise whatever the latest iPhone is forever.
So I talked to Michael Elnick, who's the co-founder of Tegas,
yeah.
and he's we all know each other.
Great dude.
And we talked about this, like, and this is another example, because this somewhat affects our business, because when there's like a decline in overall economics, like ad markets usually shrink a little bit and ad rates come down, and it's like, oh, you're doing exactly what investors do. Like what do Charlie and Buffett do when there's a crash? They don't deploy. Read Izzy Sharp's fantastic autobiography, the founder of Four Seasons, right? And he says this. He goes, he's building what didn't exist at the time, the only chain of 5-star hotels at the time. And he says, I grow and this is every founder does this, Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, Henry Clay Frick, when they have recessions, that's when they grow. So what he would do is his competitors would pull back on advertising, he would spend more.
Yep.
And he claims, I think in the book, he increases market share by like 25 or 28% using this over and over again, because human nature is, oh crap, things are small, and they cut. This is what Ogilvy said. Ogilvy's like, if you need advertising to sell your product, it's not a marketing expense, it's a production cost. It's actual cost of manufacturing your product. And so what Michael Elnick did that was such a genius move was, first of all, he knew something was working, right? And he scaled up through podcast ads. And he knew it was effective. And then he's like, oh, okay, well, like now you have all these people in the tech industry, their stock's creating, everybody's like running in retreat. What does he do? He goes like,
there's probably available inventory.
And so he goes, hey, Colossus Network, I'd like to buy up every single ad inventory for 2023 on every single one of your shows. That's how you know that likelihood that guy's going to win. Like, I don't know the details of his business. It's private and everything else. It's like, that's the right decision. Same decision. That's what Ogilvy would have done. That's what Buffett and Munger do when they put money in. Like, that's what Coca-Cola does. It doesn't matter the economic climate. You ever going to see less Apple billboards? You're going to see less Coca-Cola? No.
It's interesting to like think about this in the venture business, right? Like, which obviously, as we record this here in mid-March, 2023, there's a lot going on in the venture business.
It's so dynamic right now that I feel like we don't know the last 2 iterations of what have happened because we've been recording and I haven't checked my phone. Like, that's how fast the world is moving right now.
Things are happening very quickly as we speak. But I think a consequence of that, to your point about like you should advertise heavier during recessions, I think customer differentiation among venture firms is just declining rapidly, right? Like what is?
Well, no, it was until interest rates went up, but now that
but even like I think both the up and the down cycle is both. I think are commoditized.
I totally disagree with this. I think when capital was a commodity and money was free, it was extremely hard to differentiate yourself as a venture firm or any financial firm. But like, it should be easier than ever to differentiate yourself because the thing.
Okay, but so how do you differentiate yourself right now?
You guys are doing
it. You can. I mean, well, one of them. Like, let's abstract away like speaking to the acquired audience as one of them, or as a gigantic means of differentiation.
Let's just say your XYZ average venture firm out there
having money and writing the checks.
Right, but yes, having money, right? But like
a year from now, it's like 6 to 12 months from now, that's going to be differentiating.
So I have a thought on this. 1, I don't know anything about venture investing. 2, I don't know anything about investing, period. Like, I get to talk to super smart investors, and I'm sure the questions, I'm like, hold on, you got to define that for me. And I'm sure they're like, this kid's an idiot. But when you guys were talking a little bit about like your business and like the venture game in general, is I just think of like what one of my favorite things that I heard Jeff Bezos say is, for years people were like, hey, when are you going to do physical retail? When are you going to do physical retail? When are you going to do physical retail? And he said something that was crazy. He's like, physical retailing is an ancient business. And I love that term. He's like, it's an ancient business, so I'm not going to do it until I know, like, I can. It's so hard to improve on an ancient industry. It has to be completely differentiated. You mentioned, I heard you on one of your podcasts where you're like, you went to the Amazon Go store just as like sheer curiosity. It's like not like you needed something. And so you guys have probably read that story too, where it's like at one time they were going to do like meat and like all this other stuff that you'd have to like talk to somebody. He's like, no, you have to redo this. This doesn't make sense. The key, the differentiation here is that you walk in, you walk out. Not walk in, talk to some guy, like he's like cutting salami for you. Like, you got to get that out of there. And so I've had this thought, because I've read a bunch of biographies on investors too. And like, investing is an ancient business. Like, and we're just doing it in different ways now. And so I was like, well, if you wanted to invest, right? Let's say you wanted to invest in private companies, which people have been doing forever. I always think of like where did J.P. Morgan get his deal flow? And like you've read through the history. It's like people think, oh, that was J.P. Morgan Bank. Like, no, there's no retail bank. Like, you're not going in there. There's no ad, like a sign on the door. It's like, here's J.P. Morgan Companies. Like, it was a relationship based. It's like you got in if you knew somebody, right?
Yep.
I read this biography that's incredible. I highly recommend people read it. It's episode 103 of Founders. It is The Richest Woman in America, Hetty Green. I can't remember the
I
subtitle.
love how he denies that he knows every number of every episode and then busts out 3 more.
Oh, it's only because I like reference this all the time. So Hetty Green, right?
It's only because you reference every episode all the time.
One day it's just going to be a recording of just all the episode numbers. But Hetty
You are an algorithm. You are your Readwise app.
Well, that's how I get it. So the Hetty Green, though, was so wealthy that she bailed out the city of New York. Like, that book has unbelievable stories.
I've never heard this person's name, and they bailed out the city of New York.
Her family. So the richest, when she was alive, the richest city in the world per capita was like New Bedford, Massachusetts.
Oh yeah, Whaling.
Yeah, Whaling.
Bingo.
Yep.
So her family made so much whaling, and the way they looked at the family fortune is, I am a steward of this money. My job is to make it grow so that the next generation has more. And then she's like the 3rd generation of these whaling, and then whaling it died out, I think, the generation before her. So they had to figure out how to make money. The technology stocks of her day, railroads. Like, she made a ton of money in railroads, and then she'd buy land, like real estate in New York and everything else. But anyways, my point being, and I had this conversation with Patrick one day. I was like, think about it. Like, that was investing is an ancient business. So like, you wouldn't do what Hetty Green did. Like, where did she get her deal from? People knew her. They knew she was wealthy. They knew that she was the first person to go to in financial panics. They called financial panics what we call recessions and depressions now. And it was like, every 3 years back then.
Yeah.
And so what she would do is she had a desk in Chemical Bank in Manhattan. So the advantage there is geography, physical location. You're at the center of finance in America. You need to be here. You build a reputation. So literally there's stories in the book where there'd be a line of people in financial crashes waiting at her desk. It's like, okay, I'll sell you my railroad stocks, pennies on the dollar. Cornelius Vanderbilt did the same thing. She invested with him and a bunch of other people, right? And I was like, but what would you do today? Like, you want an edge. Everything we're talking about is like, you need an edge, right? You can't play. Ed Thorpe has the great quote in his book. He's like, I've been a money manager for 50 years. One thing I know is the surest way to get rich is only play games and make investments where you have an edge.
Right.
Right.
Which is another way of saying, do something your competitors aren't, or can't.
Or what Edwin Land. So Edwin Land plays a huge role in my life. Founder of Polaroid, Steve Jobs' hero, because he said, I have a personal model. It may not fit anybody else. Don't do anything somebody else can do. And so I was like, oh, okay, I don't think anybody else could do founders the way I do it, so I'm just going to do this, right?
Yep.
So my point being is like, how would you do it today? Well, it would look very much like what I think you guys are building. And I'm not an investor, so I don't know anything about your world, but it's just like, I'd spend my time reading and learning about business history. Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett did that. Every single investor you guys have probably read about does that all the time. They read constantly, right? Yep. I would share what I know. That's going to build my network of other people. Those people are eventually going to sell me deals. Then I have this huge advantage that you couldn't even do 10 years ago or 15 years ago because there's no such thing as a podcast, right? It's like, now I could record all the stuff I'm learning, right?
Which we should say, like, there have been iterations of this. Like, this is how Union Square Ventures became Union Square Ventures, or Foundry Group became Foundry Group. Because blogging, and then Brad and Jason writing the book on venture deals. I mean, it's like
venture hacks with Naval and Rivi.
Totally.
I have 2 other examples. It's just like, it's not even venture. Like, what is the most successful content marketing of all time?
Michelin.
No, Berkshire shareholder letters.
No, totally, of course.
Berkshire shareholder letters.
Of course.
Because this is how you know
Of
he's a
course.
genius. It is the greatest act of salesmanship because you never even see the sale happening. It's like, hey, and they spend, you guys have probably done this research, how much time they spend on those letters. It's like half a year, 7-8 months for every letter. This is not like, oh, I just jotted down what I learned this year. And the crazy thing is, like, he's
Uncle Warren.
How many people have, this is something Charlie taught. Oh, so this is a great thing that this came up here.
Did you talk about the letters with him?
No, I asked him about, like, so I was explaining to him, I was like, Charlie, I'm literally in the middle of, like, reading about you when you were, like, around my age. So every time I read a book, I'm like, okay, first of all, I know what year they're born. So every time as I go through the books, I'm like, how old are they? And I write down, okay, he's 24 here, he started. I want to know what they were doing in and around my age. And so I was like, Charlie, I'm thinking about you guys. Like, you just started, like, your fund starts when he's like 41 or something like that. I don't remember what it was, right? And I was like, then like 50, like, you start out, you're trying to figure things out. You could see them kind of figuring out, making the mistakes. You guys did an excellent job on your episode, like, talking about what they learned from. Getting to, like, get away from the Ben Graham, like, get to excellence. Yep. Great businesses are rare. We should be in there. And then just let time do all the work. And I was like, and now, like, you guys put up the greatest investment record the world's ever seen. It's like, are you surprised? He goes, of course. He's like, of course I'm surprised. Like, how could you not be? Like, we want to be successful, and we were ambitious and driven, but there's no way you could say, hey, I'm going to be worth, what's Berkshire's market cap right now? I don't know. Like, 500 billion? Yeah, whatever it is. But he said, but the reason that popped to my mind, when I was asking him like these questions, let me actually get the exact note because I don't want to mess up the way he said it because his lines were just excellent. And so he goes, he's surprised how successful him and Warren turned out. But how could you not be surprised? And then he said something that was fascinating. He goes, I think we get too much credit. And I was like, whoa, that's interesting. Like, why do you think that, Charlie? And he's like, he goes, I find it odd to be so wealthy and loved. These are not exact words. These are my interpretation of his words. Let me just be clear here. I find it so odd that to be wealthy and loved, that's not a usual human reaction. And then my note, tied to why I think the Berkshire Letters are the greatest content marketing of all time. He goes, I wonder if this is because they spent so much time teaching others. So when you listen to Acquired, you guys are teaching, right? Berkshire, I'm going to go to Paul Graham too. Berkshire, they're teaching, like, you could just not read a book and just read Berkshire's letters and you're going to get a fantastic education, right? Yeah. And then in there is like, oh, by the way, we'd like to be the buyers of choice. So if you happen to know of this business, like this business that you want to get your hands on, like, you know, and you care about it, and he does this excellent product differentiation, call me.
Yeah.
The greatest content. What is like, how much money do they make off of that? And obviously,
and I think this is probably, I don't even know if it's on the list of things that they care about, but like, it's also marketing for their businesses. Like,
totally.
I have Geico car insurance because it's a Berkshire Hathaway company.
This is how we talked. I'm drinking.
I feel an extra kinship for Brooks running shoes.
Absolutely.
For sure.
I'm wearing Brooks right now.
Okay, so
I'm wearing our arena show shoes.
There you go.
I changed out. I was in a polo hoodie right before I came over. I watched a documentary on Ralph Lauren. I just did a podcast.
I just listened to your episode.
Yeah, I think it's episode 288. I wonder if I'm right.
There it is. There it is again.
Let's see if I'm right, though. Let's see if I'm right. I could be wrong. I could be full of crap. It's 288. Okay. But before that, I had watched a documentary on him like years ago, and I found out that he did I always go to Ben for the proper pronunciation. Like, we'll do the same podcast. I say like Akio Morita, and then he's like Akio Morita. I'm like, all right. I go with Ben. I trust Ben.
Oh, you get I will give you the correct American pronunciation of something, and it's unclear if it's actually right or not.
So he did the same thing that Akio did. You know, like they were struggling in the early days of Sony. They get this huge order. They're like, we're going to take 100,000 units or whatever it is, but take off Sony and put on our name. And Akio's like, we have no money.
Yeah.
But he refused to do that because he's like, I'm not building your company, I'm building mine. I love that, like that entrepreneurial, like bullheaded tendency. Same thing with Ralph. Ralph was broke. Him and his wife are living in a house or apartment with a train running over on top of them. They're sleeping on a mattress, and he's making ties. And Bloomingdale's like, "Well, take them. We love them. Take that name off. You're going to be our house brand."
Yeah.
And he packs up his ties. He's like, "I'm not here to build your brand. I'm here to build mine." Like that. So
which is funny because later in life, like he would make so much money on just licensing out his brand.
Right.
He's like, I don't even make any of the products. I literally just license the brand.
Hearing that made me buy more polo clothes. Hearing your affinity for Geico makes you buy Geico. The advertisers you haven't acquired because they love you. Your audience, if I know you guys vet them, and like you have a ton of people that want to advertise that you don't let. It's like your relation, that goodwill that you're building up, the goodwill that Buffett built up. The second maybe most.
And by the way, there's a litmus test for that. It's, does the acquired brand, like, I want to only work with sponsors that I want to so full-throatedly endorse that I feel the acquired brand gets stronger by working with them.
Yeah.
And like, if you can actually just keep doing that durably, I think that is like an amazing way to build a brand. And, you know, we try, it doesn't always work. And sometimes we just don't sell ad slots because we're like, well, the bar's here.
It's long term. Like, okay, I miss a week on advertising. Doesn't matter. I'm doing this for you. When we get on the phone, the first time we ever talk, do you guys love podcasting? I love podcasting. You're gonna do it forever. We're gonna do it forever. We say the same thing.
Right.
It's like 1 week. We could do this for another 40 years. Right. So the same thing. It's like the same goodwill that you're talking about. It's why I'm drinking. I don't even drink energy drinks, right? But like the format for founders.
You showed up with 5 Jocko Go's.
This is the only energy drink I found, and I only found it because I was driving home on Thanksgiving, and all the coffee shops are closed. And I heard Jocko's podcast, and I know he has this, and he says he's in Wawa's, and I was like, wait, there's a Wawa on the turnpike. I was like, I can just go there, like they're there, and I bought them, and then I was wired for the whole drive home. I was like, oh, they work, man. This is fantastic. But the point there is like, it's not like when I went to the energy drink aisle, I was like, oh, maybe I'll do Rockstar or Monster. It's like, no, they didn't make a podcast that I love.
Right.
Jocko made a podcast I love.
You were not evaluating energy drinks at that point.
The format for our founders I got from Jocko. I found his podcast because he was on Tim Ferriss's. His podcast at the very beginning was just him reading books for an hour and a half saying, oh, I like this section.
That.
Yeah, and he does it for autobiographies for military people. I was like, oh, I should do this for biographies of founders and everything else. So it's a combination of ideas. The second best version, and you guys know this more than me because it's your world and I don't know anything, I had spent 3 weeks reading Paul Graham's essays. Paul Graham's essays changed my life. The reason
me too.
Content marketing
totally changed my life.
So we're gonna get there. The full the reason to finally jump and dedicate my life to founders came. My wife was sleeping in bed next to me. I'm up late at night. I read Paul Graham's essay, How to Do What You Love. I talk about this on
such a good one.
Episode 275, 76, and 77. Those are right. I know that for sure. Are the 3 Paul Graham episodes I did. I talk about this snap, how he changed that episode changed my life, or that essay changed my life in 275. So then so I spent 3 weeks going through every single one of his essays. So something his new essays lack that they had before is you used to have this bright orange box at the top. It says, do you want to start a startup?
Apply to Y Combinator.
Apply to Y Combinator.
Yeah.
And so I was like, so again, it's not like you went, I thought about this, like, what is the founder's version of Y Combinator? What is the acquired version of Y Combinators, right? You have to be very careful, like, who you partner with and what you're doing.
Right.
So I was like, what is the orange box, right? It's not like you go to Paul Graham's and he's got like 10 banner ads. He's just like, no.
Yeah, he worked for Yahoo. He knows that doesn't work.
Your attention is here.
Yeah.
And it's like, he didn't know that starting Y Combinator. You can go back and read his essays about it, watch his interviews. They had no clue. Just like Charlie told me. He's like, no, I did not expect to build one of those.
It was called the Summer Founders Program. You know, it wasn't even.
That's the best thing about learning about the company and founder history. It's like there's no way when you could interview Sam Walton when his shoes, the bottom of his shoes has watermelon and donkey crap. Yeah, he's not going to be like, hey guys, I'm the richest man in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I love this idea of, hey, all of these discussions about the business benefit all comes from, it's the byproduct of educating people, sharing people. That's why people love Charlie and Warren, why all 3 of us love them. How much have us 3 learned from them?
Right.
So much.
It's like, to the point where,
This
like,
is such a good point.
I wanted to cry when I met him.
Because of their content marketing.
What
I mean, it sounds trite, but like...
His lessons changed my life. They're going to change the trajectory of my kids' lives.
Yeah.
Like, that is, and you know, he probably hears that a million times a day, but it doesn't matter. It's like, I got a chance to tell him that. That's it.
It is crazy. Yeah, he educated America on investing while still managing to do it better than anyone else.
There was some funny things about that too, where he says, like, you know, he says something like, well, you know, they're completely, he says, you both, in your episode, you talk about Snowball. Snowball has that quote from Buffett in there. He talks about it's really important to have an inner scorecard or an outer scorecard. Inner scorecard is his dad. It's like, I'm doing this because I know it's good. Outer scorecard is like, I'm doing this. Oh, what are other people going to think about me? Newsflash. No one's thinking about you. They think about themselves. So outer scorecard people cannot have, like, it's almost really hard to have a happy life having an outer scorecard. I like Charlie's description of that better. He says, like, I think it was Andrew that asked him the question. Maybe Chris asked him the question. It's like, were you driven to succeed, like to impress your dad or your mom? It's a great question. And he goes, no. He goes, I had an inner clock. And I've always had, he goes, I have an inner clock and I always had an inner clock. I did this because I wanted to do it. And like, and he goes, and they're like, do you think Buffett's like that? He goes, Buffett has an inner clock too.
Yeah.
And it's just like this idea where they did it their way, regardless, they don't care what other people think. He said this about the fact that they keep some of their wholly owned businesses and like, oh, the profits are less, or they kind of just let them run out and like, they'll just keep the cash. And then people are like, oh, you should invest the cash. And he's just like, no, because we're opportunists. We're individual opportunity driven is the line that he has about that.
Right. You were going somewhere, David, earlier with the discussion of being a professional investor and how it's less differentiated than it's ever been before.
Well, where I was going with it was, I bet, look at the reaction on Twitter and elsewhere, and I think in much of the country to what's happened with the Silicon Valley Bank situation. not that this is a current events podcast, but like
It's also, by the time this comes out, going to be 2 weeks.
gonna be old news, right?
Yeah. Hopefully things will just be calm and settled down, and there'll be no more impending crises.
Yeah, right.
But another one's coming eventually.
Right.
Like just like Charlie says, you're gonna have another unintended problem a year from now.
Yep. I think you are right, Ben, that just having capital to invest will be differentiating going forward. However, I think the aggregate brand and reputation of the venture industry has taken a massive hit.
Totally.
Massive hit over the last several years.
And you're not holding up
and
SVB
it just keeps going down.
SVB is revealing to how other people think of Silicon Valley.
What I'm specifically referring to is VC's behavior and reactions on Twitter over the past week. But that's just emblematic of the direction things have been going for years now.
Right.
And part of it's related to tech in general, but I think there's a specific maybe hatred is strong, but brand decline of the venture capital industry.
Yeah, I agree with that. Tie it to differentiation among venture firms.
So yes, while as the market goes down, having capital will be differentiating, and like the number of participants will go down in the industry and whatnot. But how do you stand out in this market as like if in aggregate your industry is thought less of and people don't want to work with you?
Right.
How do you turn that tide?
Right. Yeah. If the next Sam Walton has the opportunity to raise venture capital dollars and he's like, you know what? I think I would rather just figure it out another way and not build in that ecosystem.
I think there are a lot of people out there right now who want to start businesses and are like, I'm not going to raise venture capital because F that. And I don't need to. And it was a lie that I needed to.
Right.
Can I tell you from the founder's perspective? Because I talked to a ton of founders.
Yeah.
I'm going to go down, I think, we'll see, talking to more founders than any non-VC, right? I get offers all the time like, hey, you want to invest in my company? I've said no to all of them. Just because I was like, dude, I'm focused on founders. Like, I don't care about anything but my podcast. And so we have these conversations, and it's just like, what VCs don't understand is like how much founders hate them.
Yeah, yes.
They they hate them. And it's not they hate the good ones. They love the good ones, right? Like, I'm not going to say some of the brands that I've heard about, they're like, oh, no, like we raise money from a bunch of people. They're good. They don't mess with us. But if we ask a question or we need something, they jump on it, you know? And the problem is, it's not like it's a natural like distribution of any industry. Like there's going to be crappy founders and great founders. There's going to be crappy investors and great investors. And so I really think it ties back to the principle that Buffett and Munger built their business on is like only associating themselves with the best people and the best companies. And that solves so much other problems. So my issue is like there's a lot of VCs in my audience too, and they're nice people. Don't get me wrong, right? Some of them I've talked to was just like, who gave you money to invest? Like, what is going on here? But what I don't like is like the best ones. Like this is what I like about Patrick, right? If you talk to the people that Patrick has invested in, he doesn't like, here's a list of 10 things I took 2 minutes to think about. He's asking questions. He does exactly what he does on his show. Right. He asks questions.
Yep.
And if you need something, like I'll do whatever I can because he's got a good network and help him out. But he's certainly not. He's like, if I have to tell the founder what to do, then why did I invest in it? Like that doesn't make any sense. So what happens is like I'll get these emails like, I love your show, such a. Here's like 10 ideas for you. And it's just like you read them. It's like you hired like an assistant or a researcher, maybe you wrote this yourself. You thought about this for 30 minutes.
Right.
Like
I think about this all day,
I've thought about this every day for years, man.
Yeah.
Like that's not helpful. Like what are you doing? Like you're just making. I have a lower opinion of you because like this is a dumb idea.
Yeah.
And the only way about that is like, do you know who Bryce Roberts is? Okay. So he has. This is again. I've never raised venture capital. I've never made a venture capital investment, but I talked to a ton of founders, and he has the greatest description. He's like, "What is the product that founders are buying from VCs? It's not money because everybody's got money. Like that's
it used to have money.
Or I guess used, but still, like there's the
in
VC
aggregate though, like there's still a lot of people.
There's still going to be investments made in
compared
markets.
to venture in the 70s. Yes.
Yeah. He said 2 words: improved odds. That is the best, from a founder's perspective, that is the best description. It's like, if I take investment from you as opposed to this other guy over here, this other girl over there, like who is going to be, founders, all they care about is, can you help my company succeed? Is it more likely that my company succeeds? I'm dedicating my life to this, man. This is not a game. Like, can you make my company succeed? And sometimes you can do that with money, sometimes you can network. There's other people sitting right across from me that could probably help with distribution, that is actually a value add. Like, that is the difference. Like if I was going to be a venture capitalist, and God knows I would not be, right? I would just start a podcast, and then I would do it for 6 years, and I would get really valuable, and then my inbox is full of people. I don't have deal flow.
This is what Patrick has done.
Yeah, it comes inbound. I have a friend, Chris Powers. He syndicates real estate investment. You know, rich people like to invest in real estate. Yep. There's all these tax benefits. And he says, David, even with like, and this guy's done like, I think he's got either $1 billion or $2 billion of industrial class real estate under management right now. And he's like, David, I just was interviewing and doing my podcast. Again, same thing, educational, interviewing people operating in the real estate industry and interviewing founders. And just doing because he liked to do it. He wanted to talk to those sort of people, happened to press record, put it out there, never really promoted it. You know, he's like, even with my small audience, he goes, it changes the dynamic from, hey, I'm Chris, I'm sending an outbound, hey, I'm Chris, this is what I do, this is like, can we talk, can we set up a meeting, to, oh, Chris, love your podcast, how can I get $5 million in your fund?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It reverses it because they're like, oh,
totally.
They get to know you as a person. This is what I don't like also. And
it shortcuts the relationship.
But you just said, it's a relationship, right? Which I think there's too much of this like calendar, like Tetris that no offense, that venture capitalists play, because they try to do it with me, where our founders do this too, where they're like, hey, love your show, love to get to talk to you. Can we talk? And I reply back, yeah, let's set something up. Then I get like, then they're like, I'm like routed to an assistant. And then it's like, oh, you know.
How about 6 weeks from now on, Thursday? Yeah.
You know, Joe Smo has 30 minutes 3 weeks from now. And I've done this like once or twice. And now my response is, that's no way to build a relationship. Here's my phone number. Just text or call me when you're free. I'm not a 30-minute block in your calendar. And dude, we have the inbound that us three get. It's like I'm already almost hitting a limit to how many deep relationships I can build. So I'd rather, instead of talking to 1 million people, I'm not an investor. Instead of talking to 1 million people for 15 minutes, I'd rather talk to 5 or 10 people over and over and over and over again. Yeah, that's totally, what Charlie.
You and I talked a lot about this, and like you've rubbed off on me a lot on this. And like I have changed my mindset and my daily behavior hugely because of our conversations.
Charlie and Warren. It's just like they built relationships. They found people they like, admired, and trust. They repeat like, admire, and trust over and over again in the letters and their talks. And then they just did business with them forever.
Yep.
It's not this wide but shallow, and that's where you get the bad behavior. And anybody that's high quality can see through it, and it's not going to work with you. And you're only going to succeed, like you guys, if your business is power law, you're only going to succeed if you get the very best ones.
It's interesting though, like just like so much in life, like Warren and Charlie, really, like they're just so often right. And if you think about like, if you buy the premise that the aggregate opinion of the venture capital industry has declined a lot and may continue to decline, whether it does or doesn't, it's meaningfully worse than it used to be. What have Warren and Charlie done? And to your point about the best content marketing ever, what is what they do? It's a combination of a hedge fund and a private equity firm. What is the aggregate opinion, public opinion of hedge funds, managers, and private equity firms over the last 50 years? Nothing but down. What is the aggregate opinion of Berkshire? Nothing but up. You know, it's amazing.
This is one advantage that I have, the fact that I'm not an investor, so I don't have to keep up on like, to some degree, venture capitalists have to like know what's going on, right? And I close myself off. Like I was having dinner with Sam and his wife, and they were asking me, like his wife was asking me like, hey, do you know about this person? Oh no. Do you know about this? And Sam's like, he's got a very limited like. He's like, he said it nice way. He's like, you can ask him about like books, but this dude's not watching TV. He's not doing any other stuff, right?
We keep him in a hut out back.
And the good thing about that though is somebody actually. So essentially, the way I use like Twitter or any social media is like I put out little snippets from my podcast.
Yeah, you put out a lot on Twitter
in text though form, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Which has been really working for you.
I'm going to read something that has over a million views in 24 hours because everything's going on and because I just had dinner with Charlie. Yeah. So I'm going to read this and then I'll go back to
this is an amazing tweet, by the way.
So I go, Charlie Munger tells a story about human nature. Now, I didn't put this because of the bank run. Like I was just thinking, I was like, oh, I was rereading my highlights.
You didn't post this like with regards to the bank run?
No. I remember I reread my highlights every day.
Yeah.
And so when I reread what my Twitter is like when I reread highlights, like, oh, that's a good one. I just put it on Twitter.
Oh my God, you have like just the greatest timing in history.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like it wasn't intentionally. I knew it was going on, but it never said, oh, I need an SVB tweet. Like I don't have any money in SVB, like whatever. So it goes, Charlie Munger tells a story about human nature. And then this is all Charlie speaking. One of my favorite stories is about the little boy in Texas. The teacher asked the class, if there are 9 sheep in a pen and one jumps out, how many are left? And everybody got the answer right, meaning 8, right? Except this little boy who said, none of them are left. And the teacher said, you don't understand arithmetic. And the little boy said, no, teacher, you don't understand sheep. And so...
so effing good. When you were in the room with Charlie for several hours, how did, like, in natural conversation, are they just pulling out these, like, parables and these fables, like, you know...
I'm going to answer that question. The best response to this tweet, I missed it myself. He goes, was the child Charlie himself? And I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what he would have done. He would have been the kid.
Yeah,
totally.
He would have been the kid. So the reason I think it's so powerful, like the storytelling ability you guys have, how I try to break down things to aphorisms. You asked, like, why is this guy on my phone, right? I only think in stories. I think people only learn through stories and then one-liners, right? That's why why is Charlie, David Ogilvy, that idea, it's like he says it in a creative way,
Yep.
and then you remember fur. Charlie Munger says, hey, if you don't learn probability, you're going to go through life as a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest.
So good.
So you laugh, and then you think about it, it's like, oh, what is it? Oh, like,
so
I'm going
good.
to get my ass kicked. Like, so that's the way, this is here because it's Ernest Shackleton. His family motto was, by endurance we conquer. So we're in the podcast business. People are like, you can't do podcasts. There's like 2 million of them. It's like, dude, there's like 70 or 80% of them that have quit. Right?
98%
in the business
have 3
podcast right
episodes or
now.
less.
Me and Patrick were just talking about this. I just saw him in person in Miami, and we were talking, and I showed him this. It's like, dude, for podcasts like me and Patrick's and yours, business categorized in business, have at least 10 episodes, and I think release at least once a week. You guys, I think, are release schedules less than that, right? 2 weeks?
Every 2 or 3.
So those 3 categories is like...
But in terms of minutes of content per week, we're the same as everybody else.
But like that was one thing. Like they release once a week, right? 18,000. And the business category is the second most popular the second most populated podcast category.
Behind.
And I go,
do you know the first?
Spirituality.
Faith.
Yeah.
Oh, true crime has fallen off then.
Yeah.
No,
thankfully.
I'm going to start. So there's a thing about that where I heard somebody said, they're like, Founders is like church for entrepreneurs. And I might start dropping podcasts on Sunday. And no, I'm not kidding. And if I do video, I swear to God, I went and looked. I looked at pulpits. I was like, I'm not going to get
come on.
I swear to God. I swear to God.
You went crucifix shopping.
I'm not going to get a desk. Like, think about, my mom was like fundamentalist Christian and stuff. And like, I had to go to church my whole life. And it's just like, this is pretty crazy. Like, not in a bad way. I don't mean that pejorative. It's like, they're learning from the same book every week over and over again. The stories you can tell are limitless. It's one book. I could do the same thing. I have access to all the books in the world. Like, I can do that. So I do think there's an element of...
Totally.
5 years from now, people are going to be like, this is the moment where David started the cult. It's right here on video.
We're documenting it.
Cults are the best businesses, though.
100%.
If you listen to my episode In and Out, episode 244.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way I got that right, by the way.
Oh, now we gotta know.
I did that.
You keep talking. I'll look up if you got this right.
I did that episode because it's 244.
Of course it is.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I read that book because the best businesses in the world are cults. That's what the founder of Trader Joe's, he wrote his autobiography, he said that Trader Joe's was a cult for the overeducated and underpaid.
Right, and
Apple,
it's not to say that like cults are amazing businesses. That's not what you're saying. You're saying the very best businesses
cheerful.
Develop a cult.
In and Out calls them, they use this terminology in their business, cheerful cult. It's a positive cult. I'm not talking about Jonestown, let's get together and freaking drink mass suicide. No, I'm talking things that, hopefully you're building a product that's good for the world.
Oh, we had Gary Tan on back in the day, and he was talking about Palantir at the very beginning, and he was like, oh, Palantir was a cult. That's why it worked.
Well, this idea also influenced me. Is 0 to 1, Peter Thiel's book, is like, he says that. It's like the best businesses, like startups look like cults. Like
you have to inspire emotion in people. Otherwise, you can't stand out in the world, and you certainly can't have repeat behavior and in a sea of choices for someone to keep choosing you over and over and over again. Just like it's like how founders have to be weird.
This
like
is one of the
nothing
big things
interesting
that-
was created by ordinary people.
But I have to be intentional about this. I'm glad you said, oh, this is where we get it on camera and on recording that David is started as cult. It's just like podcast. No, I go crazy. Like people start talking about me. A bunch of them say, David's too obsessed with podcasts. And I'm like, I'm glad they say that because like even now there's
You're like, thank you. That's a compliment.
no, it's like I see an opportunity that other people don't, which is the same thing in the book. So I think podcasts in general are just fun to make and I'm obsessed with it, but they're also going to be wonderful businesses because they're prone to be cheerful cults. And how do you know that you have a cult? You just Google and see if the people have tattooed themselves with the brand. How many people are walking around with a Joe Rogan's face on his tattoo, or a Joe Rogan face tattoo on their skin? A ton of them, right?
Really?
Yes. How many people have tattoos of the Apple logo? A ton of them.
There's an insane number with Mario. We learned this in the Nintendo
Mario,
research.
Tesla, In-N-Out. There's a ton of... Dude, I like... Cheeseburgers are my favorite meal. I'm not tattooing an In-N-Out logo on my arm, dude. You take another level. And you see this over and over and over again. And so when I analyze businesses, I'm not just doing this like... It's not a game to me. I was like, oh, can I use these ideas in building my business? And like... Warren Buffett says the greatest thing, and this is, I think, speaks to why you guys are so like, hey, we know how big our audience is and we're going to take this seriously. Warren goes, a brand is a promise. That's the best description of a brand. It's just like, I talked about the fact that I stayed in this hotel brand, I'm not going to say who it is, in Austin, I loved it. I stayed in Santa Monica, I loved it. I found out they had one in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't check the reviews.
You came here and they broke their promise.
I told you to stay with us.
Yes, and that's the biggest thing. A brand was a promise. I know this is going to be excellent. The hotel's fine. It is in like, it's in the Tenderloin. It's like,
not a place you want to stay.
No, if I wasn't traveling alone, there's no way I'd let my wife.
This is the major misconception about San Francisco. Many people who don't live here think that it's, an absolute hellhole and wasteland. A specific part of it is, but like there are other and unfortunately that part is mostly where the hotels are.
Which is not good for the city because I'm not ever staying. I'm staying with you, or I'd stay in I'd stay out in Silicon Valley. Like I stayed at the Rosewood, which is really nice.
That is not the Tenderloin.
The most expensive hotel, which is good.
I didn't pay for it, so
no one ever does. That's the whole business model.
I didn't know how much it was. It was really nice though. I got to thank that person. So like I don't mean it in like but I am very intentional of like, hey, I'm not going to break my promise. I want you to know, and you guys do the same thing. It's like if I press play on an Acquired episode, this is why I like Dan Carlin is, I read one book an episode. He reads like 30. Yeah. He only does 2 a year or one one a year. Right. But like I know there's no way I'm going to press play.
It's going to be good.
And he didn't do the work necessary.
Yeah. That's what we all feel. I mean, in our own ways, we all definitely feel that about what we're doing.
Can I get some feedback? Like, how can we make Acquired better? Or have you ever had moments where you like paused an episode and were like, oh, I want to like talk to Ben and David about this right now because like I have some feedback?
No.
You'd probably just text us if you did.
That's true. But like I would first of all.
Or the model, not necessarily just the content, but like.
No, what you guys said on your benchmark dinner episode, I think was like there's a few podcasters. I had this conversation with Sam yesterday. It's like there's a few podcasters that like they know what they're doing, and they know by like what their position in the market is, like how they're thinking about it. And I'm not gonna say who, but like you guys hit it. Like what makes you special? It's the Edwin Land thing. Don't do anything somebody else can do, right? Where you said it's like your marquee thing is these super in depth. Like Blake made the funny. Blake Robbins said the funny thing on Twitter I saw. I loved it. He's like, only Acquired could say, all right, let's bring this home. And still an hour and a half left. That's your brand. People know it.
Totally.
Yeah. And I think what you're doing here with like the sessions is like a way to also, it's like, you can't increase the amount of episodes that you can do because they take so much work to do. But you also have a way to surface all this information that you guys have that's valuable to other people in different formats.
We were talking about this a little bit before, which I hate saying we were talking about this before we were recording. Yeah. Why didn't we just record? But you were also thinking about potentially doing something similar.
Yeah.
And there's like
not now, years from now. But
yeah. But for the core episodes, we spend so much time preparing. But then for stuff like this, we don't prepare at all because our whole career is preparing.
Does this make sense? Like what is the right number and format of sessions? Because this is the second session. Like we're still figuring sessions out. Like in your dream world as an Acquired listener, what do sessions look like?
Your sessions should replace your interviews. Anything that's a non-acquired, like long deep dive, just make them a session. There's enough people interviewing founders and investors.
Right.
But we need more conversations. So if I ever did, people are like, if you ever do an interview show, it's like, first of all, I wouldn't do an interview show. Because like, interview is a skill. It looks easy. Like I always tell, I tell Patrick, Patrick, you're world class at this, dude. Mm-hmm. Right. Like you wield, because
you've been on every week and now twice a week for 8-9 years.
And I like to read. he likes to ask questions, so therefore our formats match the personality, right?
Yep.
And so what I tell him is like, I've been on the other side of it. It's like, you can tell it's not, he doesn't have a list of questions in front of him, because you can tell his good question just came off of a response of what,
Right.
like a lot of people like, and it's fine, but like the Tyler Cowen thing where he just like, he has his questions and you just said something interesting, he's not going to follow up and he's going to go on the next question.
It feels very odd because you're like, are you guys not having a conversation?
Like, no, they're not.
They're not,
There's
yeah.
that guy like left you an opening, and how did you not take that opening?
They're not. So, but Tyler, you have to do. Let's tie this to Jay-Z and J. Cole, and to answer your question also about like, I'm glad you guys are so much nicer. We're like, do you have any feedback? Because like, I can't stand feedback. We're like not in the sense of like I told you, I texted you guys this one time. We're like, one guy was like, hey, I don't like that you reference like the superpower of the show is that I tie. It's not like the episode on Ralph Lauren is going to tell you how Ralph thinks like Andrew Carnegie and Rockefeller and Bezos, and it's like
You literally know all your episode numbers by heart.
and like so. To me, it's just one large conversation on the history of history's greatest entrepreneurs. That's how it is to me. It just happens to be separated. And so I text you when this guy's like, could you save that for at the end and just do it like a carve out like Acquired? And I was like, go listen to Acquired. No, I'm not going to.
I have a singular vision for how this is going to go, and that's why I own and control and operate the entire thing.
It's even further than that. It's like, I'm not putting on a show. Like, there's a lot. I loved Anthony Bourdain when he was alive. I read his books. He had a huge influence on me. Like, anytime I traveled to a place that he went to, I'd go and
Have
watch
you done
it.
an episode on him?
219.
Yeah.
There's no way that's right. There's no way.
Keep going.
There's no way that's right.
Fact checkers are working on
Oral. It's called the oral biography. That format should be done more, where his assistant had interviewed, an assistant and friend had interviewed a bunch of people that actually knew Tony and were there in his last days, and then she organized that interview into this biography called Bourdain, the Definitive Oral Biography, I think. And is it 219?
It's 219.
And so like, where was I going with that? That I went on a digression, but so there's a line in the book that I love. It says the line between Tony and the show is non-existent.
Yeah.
Right. That's why people like. I hear a lot of people talk about podcasting. It's like, oh, you don't actually know what the superpower of podcasting is, right? Where it's like, to me, one of the superpowers of podcasting is it's authenticity scaled, right? When I meet with founders that listen to founders, and we have a 3-hour dinner, they all say the same thing. They're like, this is like a 3-hour episode of Founders.
Yeah.
It's like the same person there, right?
Well, and I think that is a thing that you did really well, and we sort of accidentally did well. But I realized over time why that makes both of the things we've built as durable as they are. A lot of people play characters on the internet, and
which in other mediums
plays really well.
Is an easy trap to fall into.
And like, it's a way to catapult growth. If you adopt a polarizing character, you can get a bunch of followers. I mean, there's a lot of dividends that pay to it, but it's exhausting to maintain over time, and it has a conflict where when people meet you in real life, they're like, "Oh, weird." And so like, when you actually are just yourself, it's going to probably grow more slowly because I'm not like as polarizing. Like, it would be horrifying to live as a polarizing character that you play on the internet in real life also. And so you have this more like slow organic growth path. But like, there is this cool byproduct now where like I sit down with someone and they're like, yep, exactly the same as I expected.
This is why I said have Blake Robbins on here, because he gave me the dynamic, that spectrum that he talks about. Blake is a super smart person in general, but he's like, the way you think about this is there's a spectrum. This is not my idea. This is Blake's spectrum. Because on one end of the spectrum, it's like, how much time do people spend with you, right? He's like, on one end of the spectrum, you have these like 30-second TikTokers that dance, right? And then all the way on the other end of the spectrum, as you move down, they spend more time with you. All the way to the end of the spectrum, you have the Twitch streamers, right? Which he helped incubate 100 Thieves, 40 Thieves, 100 Thieves, where they're spending like 40 hours or 50 hours a week with you, right? He goes, David, you're like they don't spend 40 hours with you, but you're one click to the left. Yeah. And they're going to wind up spending 10, 20, 100, 200 hours with you. And you keep moving down and like, let's say you do 10-minute YouTube videos, you know? And it's like the deeper you go down there, it's why when I think the guy's name is Nate Shot, when like 100 Thieves has a new product and he announces it, you'll see a line down the block because hundreds of thousands of people have spent all their time with them. And so it's like, oh, Nate Shot has something, so I'll come down here. And you see this over and over again. And then Blake says you could have like a TikToker that has like 10 million followers, yet they can't even get 3,000 people to show up somewhere.
Right.
And so I think that is like the way to think about it. So
that's algorithmic throttling too. TikTok, it is almost a zero signal if somebody follows you.
It's all
like
views.
It doesn't
matter
actually matter. Or YouTube. It's like, oh, they subscribe to your channel. Like maybe that'll come up in one of the top 8 videos that shows up at the top of the screen of like what they should watch next, but like maybe not.
So my point in all that is if they're spending a lot of time with you, and I love, this is my flip of what Charlie Munger says, that you need to learn the big ideas in the main domains like physics, psychology, because they carry the most freight. Yeah. I flip that to time carries the most weight. As long as what we're doing, you said we're not playing characters, we are passionately interested in this, we're not going to quit, then we do this over a long period of time. You'll get what you deserve. You'll get the audience you deserve, you'll get the business opportunities and everything else. It's like time carries the most weight. I know I'm not going to quit. You're going to have to pry the microphone from my cold dead hand, and I'm just going to let the chips fall where they are. And that doesn't mean I'm like lollygagging here. Like I'm on it 7 days a week. I'm going to try to work myself in a position. So it's something I learned from Steve Jobs when he came back to Apple, right? And he's like, people hear that speech he gives, which he's fantastic. He's like wearing shorts, and he's like, and it's like, I don't even know if he's in the polo, the turtleneck yet, but he mentions like what they're going to do, and everybody focuses on the fact that he's like, we're gonna, there's no sex in the products anymore, and we're going to do the 4-quadrant thing. A lot of people in the technology industry, particularly, know that speech, and like, yeah, let's cut the fat and like put all of our A players, fire the B and C players, put all of our A players in these 4 products that we're going to make, right?
Mobile,
but they miss
desktop, laptop, high-end.
Yep, consumer and pro for
Yeah.
both laptop and desktop. Those are 4 categories, right? They miss what he said earlier when he talks about Nike. He's just like, marketing. He's like, Apple sucks at marketing. We have to be a great marketing company. And so he said something where I read the quote and then my reinterpretation of this, right? And people don't know that. It's in it's in this book called Insanely Simple. I think that guy's name is Ken Siegel. And he's like, he was an ad guy at a company for Apple. And he's like,
TWBA Chiat Day was the ad agency.
So he goes, and every Wednesday, actions express priority. So there's another maxim, right? He's like, I don't care what people say, I care like what they do. So when people ask me, like first people, you talk to the founders like, hey, like what would you do about this? I never answer like, well, David Senra would do this. I'd say, hey, well, Charlie Munger would tell you to do this, or Steve Jobs would do this, or like, hey, I heard a story about here. Because like my opinion is useless. It's, my opinion on business building, on how I build my business. It doesn't matter what I say. It's like, how's he approaching founders? Like, why is he making decisions? That's the important part, right? And so Steve told you that marketing was important to his actions because every Wednesday at like 3 o'clock, or I forgot the time, they had like a 3-hour meeting. He would have to approve every single piece of advertising and marketing that went out for Apple. There's not a billboard in Kentucky that went out without him saying, yes, it's going to go out, right? And so in that speech, if you actually listen to what he's saying, he's like, listen, I feel that the products we're making at Apple make people's lives better. He says this line, he goes, I want everybody in the world to own an Apple device. We know that that's not going to happen because it's so expensive. But he goes, and to do that, we have to get really good at marketing. So my interpretation of that on the podcast, what I said is like, if you feel your product can improve people's lives, I think you guys already know, because you get thousands of messages just like I do, that yes, listening to Acquire, listening to founders will improve people's lives and work, right? Then you have a moral obligation to get good at marketing. Well, all that means is not get good at marketing so our ad rates can go up, or that we can be celebrities during that. It's no. So these messages for all these of history's greatest entrepreneurs that are dead, that those ideas don't die with them. And then therefore Acquired and founders can gather these ideas and push them down the generations. So that's why it's just like, I'm not dilly-dallying. Yes, I'm going to let time carry all the weight, but I'm going to do everything I can so more people at least know. And if you try founders, say, oh, this sucks or whatever, I'm cool with that. But I just want you to have the opportunity to know it exists. And me and you have had us three have had these conversations where it's like, guys, I'm telling you right now, I've said this to you, there's millions of people that would benefit from listening to Acquire. They just don't know it exists yet. So we got to come up and find ways to make sure that people know it exists, because they will love it and it will make their lives better.
Amen. I think this may be an area, I'm curious what you think about this, where our shows and approaches are a little different. I'm also curious what you, Ben, think about this. A lot of these stories are just incredible stories too, that are just like worth telling just for the sake of the story.
Yeah, it's interesting how sometimes I'm like, I'm not sure that we came up with a lesson that I would advise a founder to follow, but I know this was very entertaining and as true as we possibly can make it.
Yeah.
And so, I think,
every single episode I've listened to, there's lessons in there that I've.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying there's not lessons. Of course there are, but like sometimes we'll do an episode like. I always feel this way about the most recent episode, but we just finished making the Nintendo episode. I'm just like, you cannot, like, if you put the best fiction writers in the world,
that's true,
together, and you said come up with the best like corporate-ish story that you could imagine, you couldn't write something this good.
I guess the thing I was referring to is a little bit the survivorship bias, where like someone did something that I would not recommend anyone do, and it still worked. But it made for a great story. It's like Morris Chang and TSMC. It's like he invented the notion of a fabless semiconductor company before there was any demand for that. And then it turned out that his timing was exactly right, that like within a couple of years, a whole ton of fabless companies spun up and wanted to use his foundry. But like he created a solution in search of a problem, and like no founder should do that. But my God, did he pull a rabbit out of a hat? And so there's a good number of acquired episodes where I'm like, we should be crisper, I think, about pointing out where like this was inadvisable, but amazing that it worked.
I think that goes back to the game tape analysis where we talked about Kobe Bryant. Jordan did this too, where it's like I read this like 600-page biography of Kobe, and in the biography, they interview his high school girlfriend. And they're like, what was it like to date Kobe Bryant in high school?
I'm surprised he had a girlfriend in high school.
Right?
Like,
oh, not for very long. It's like, what's it like to date Kobe Bryant in high school? She's like, well, our dates consisted of me going to his house and watching tapes of Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson. That was his whole thing. It's just like,
that's
we're not
amazing.
leaving. I'm not taking you out to dinner. Like, we're literally going to watch this thing. And so I think the game tape analysis of that is just like, it is helpful to realize that a lot of this stuff, it's impossible to plan in advance. It's one of the great, I mean, Steve Jobs has a ton of great quotes. One of the best ones is like,
speech.
He's like, the commencement,
can only
like,
connect the dots
it's
looking
impossible.
backwards.
You're only going to connect the dots looking backwards. So you have to put faith in something. You can call it karma, religion, God, intuition, but you have to do something. I just reread Ray Kroc's autobiography, the guy from McDonald's, again, and it hit me. Yeah, I've been thinking about the Steve Jobs quote too. And this is why it's so valuable to reread your past
You
highlights.
mentioned this in the McDonald's episode.
If you think about this, like he's a perfect illustration of what Steve observed 50 years after Ray dies, for God's sake. He's just like, he goes from selling paper cups. Paper cups leads him to selling multi-mixers, which are like, make milkshakes.
Right.
Multi-mixers goes like, why the hell why does these McDonald brothers out in San Bernardino have 8 of my machines? Like he'd had a hard time selling one. That goes to the franchise system, which he didn't even do well. And then he meets Harry Somber, and then Harry Somber's like, dummy,
real estate.
You don't even know what business you're in. You're not gonna, he's like, you don't build an empire off a 1.4% cut of a 15-cent hamburger. You build an empire by owning the land upon which that hamburger is cooked. Those 5 things. There's no,
From paper cups to real estate.
He sold paper cups for 17 years. But he just like, hey, I have to go in my gut, to the point where he got divorced over this. His wife was like, you can't do this, Harry. And he's like, you have to trust my instincts.
That's one thing, to what Ben said way back in the beginning of the conversation, that you're really good at highlighting. Ray Kroc, like, he was a terrible person.
And he didn't try to hide it. Most people in autobiographies are trying to hide it.
Yeah.
He's literally like, thank you very much, June Martino, my first employee, for missing every single one of your kids' birthdays. You're going to get some stock at McDonald's. It's going to get you rich, but 20 years later, I'm going to fire you.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to put that story in there. He chose to put that. That's crazy, dude. Yeah. I said on the podcast, I was like, listen, it's interesting. Like, I'm glad he persisted, interesting ideas for business, but like, not only would never want to do business with this guy, I wouldn't even want to be his friend.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't want to do business with Steve Jobs, but I want to be his friend. You know?
Oh yeah. He'd be a very interesting person to be friends with.
Oh, I feel like the opposite.
What's that?
Like, I'd want to do business with Steve because you could create incredible things together, but I'm not sure you'd want to be friends.
I think the difference is from like a founder's perspective. Like, there is no working with Steve Jobs. It's working for. You hear the stories of how he even treated like his subcontractor, or not like the owners of the companies that contracted. It's like, these guys are empire builders. Like, they're literally building worlds. They're not used to being like, Charlie was talking about this. Cause he loves like, Lilu, the new guy, the BYD guy, Duwan.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know his name. Something.
Yeah.
Those guys. He loves Lee Kuan Yew from Singapore.
Yep.
And what you realize is it's like these are founder types, but you can't be like, founders are benevolent dictators, or in some cases they're dictators of their own company. And like, some people call Lee Kuan Yew, a dictator. It's like, oh, like can't do that in America, even if that would be beneficial. But all of them, there's no working with them. They're like, they're going to be in complete control of the situation. Like even being in the room with them, like I'm not saying they'd be rude or mean, but like you're a subordinate to them because everything is in Ray Kroc. Everything is, he says in the book, perfection is difficult. I'm demanding perfection at McDonald's. I will constantly keep expanding this empire till I die. If you get in my way, I will run you over. He's like, he says in the movie, he's like, if my competitor was drowning, I'd walk over and put a hose in his mouth. And he goes, and he was on the other end of the call as McDonald brothers because they're fighting over this. And he goes, would you do the same? And the stated thing is, it's like, you're going to have to compete on my level or else I will literally destroy you.
Yeah. So Warren and Charlie are so interesting, right? I'm trying to decide if they are the complete opposite of that or if they actually are like that just in their own ways.
Every single person has some kind of like their public persona is for that level, right? It's not like a podcast where they're going to listen to Joe Rogan for 1,600 episodes. Like, you know who Joe is. You can't hide. He's doing 3-hour shows 3 days a week for 15 years. You have probably a good idea who he is. You see flashes of like, imperfection like we all have. I don't think you don't get to that level without having, they all got sharp elbows. Like, you ever read stories about how Warren negotiates? It's like $12.50 bid. What about 14? $12.50 bid. What about 13? $12.50 bid.
Well, it's because he spent 10 years analyzing your business and he knows exactly the price that he's going to buy it for, and so now he's telling you the price he's going to buy it for. Yeah. This wasn't like a new consideration that popped up and he's like, oh, look at this, a business. It's like, no, at the scale he's operating at, like, he knows all the businesses. Yeah. And
this is from the Jim Clayton's autobiography, where he buys Clayton Homes.
Right.
And he even said, like, he wanted to sell to Buffett, he idolized Buffett, and he talks about, like, he wasn't insulting him by any means, but he's like, Warren wants the microphone. And if you're in an area where Warren doesn't have the microphone, he is not interested. And I've heard that about Warren a lot. So it's just like, because they're world builders. Like, he runs everything. You think you're going to go from being poor to having $200 billion and not distort your perception of the world? Yeah. It's impossible.
Say more about Warren wanting the microphone. What does that mean?
Like, literally in person. Like, I think they were doing, Jim Clayton was at either like an event to talk to the employees or whatever the case was. Like, Jim wanted to have input, and he's like, Warren would not allow it. Like, he monopolized this, and I've heard that about Warren. Like, same thing. We're like,
there's got to be an element of him that loves the shareholder meetings.
Oh,
of course.
Like, he didn't need to do that. He created an event around
it. How
he loves having a million people come.
Yeah, you know how he loves it because he's still doing it.
Right.
Like, he doesn't have to do anything in the world that he doesn't want to do.
Right.
And that's how you know he loves it. Like, they're beyond. We talked about earlier how, like, just how disorienting it must be to, like, have, and I would love to know this feeling, don't get me wrong, like, have a $200 billion net worth. It's like you're living life on, like, God mode. Like, it's insane. Like, I was watching this video. I don't know if it's true, but it's like Jeff Bezos' private jet has its own private jet. Like,
his new yacht has a chase yacht.
Yeah, so it's like your yacht has a yacht.
I think it's like a guest yacht. Like, I think it's so that, I mean, he now owns the biggest yacht in the world, and there's a yacht that will sail behind it.
This may be, I don't know, maybe we'll become so successful someday that I will regret my words on this, but I got to imagine having a yacht is actually not, like, additive to your life.
Oh, so this is a fun
I think
Ralph
that's more
Lauren
problems
thing.
than...
Yeah, so I think it was Ralph Lauren sold his yacht, and it's now a charter yacht because he was like, this thing was more work than any of the businesses I've ever run.
One of the most interesting ideas I've heard, and it comes from our mutual friend Jeremy, who I think we mentioned earlier in the podcast. Hopefully we did. Give him credit. I actually was talking to him and David Perot, and I'm pretty sure Jeremy said this, not David, but he's like, I would actually make the argument, because everybody's like, oh, like, what does Charlie call the Berkshire jet? The indefensible?
The indefensible, right.
And then wasn't there a second one, the indefensible 2? The indefensible. Before they bought NetJets, and now it's like, we should be on NetJets.
So you look at like, there was like, how could you possibly spend, like, these yachts cost $25,000 an hour to operate in fuel or some crazy number. The planes are the same, like, how expensive they are. And Jeremy makes the point, and Jeremy knows because he's been buying businesses forever and he's exposed to, like, great wealth, people, unbelievable amount of wealth. He makes the argument that they're actually underpriced assets. And I was like, "Ooh, tell me more."
Wow.
And he's like,
that's not what I would expect to hear.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you this book that just proved his point. I actually got to text him and tell him this. So he's like, they use it not for, if you're not like yachting, sitting there sunbathing, right? He's like, they're using it for like customers and invest and potential. And so I had heard this. I'll tell you about how this relates to the Invisible Billionaire. So I had heard this because again, I've never raised money. I don't pay attention to the venture industry. I don't know anything about it. I just have a bunch of founder friends, and founders tell founders everything. And so I'll have these discussions where they're like, they describe the courting process that they get from some of these well-known, super famous people. And it's like, well, the process you just described to me sounds like an old rich dude that like wants to sleep with like a young woman.
Yeah,
like, what would you do, right? And
there's we actually didn't put it in the episode, but there's a bunch of this in Nintendo history because Warner Brothers bought Atari. And so Warner Brothers was running Atari as Nintendo was kind of like...
And this is how they courted Nolan.
That's how they courted... Yeah, so that's how Warner Brothers courted Atari and Nolan, and then how they tried to court Nintendo was the private jets, the... what was it? It was Clint Eastwood...
They put Clint Eastwood on the private jet with Atari
Nolan,
flying coast to coast.
So what did I tell
to
you?
buy the company.
History doesn't repeat, human nature does.
Yeah.
These founder dudes are running technology companies now, and they're like, I'm not going to name who. They're like, he gave us... He picked us up in Manhattan in his private helicopter, and we landed at his Hamptons estate. Do you think he got the deal? He got the deal.
Yeah.
This guy said, hey, come, what are you doing? It's Friday night. What are you doing Saturday morning? Okay, come on my private jet. I'm going to take you to California with me.
Yeah.
Here, you want to stay with your girlfriend at this mansion that I'm not using in, XYZ. So Jeremy was explaining this to me.
It's like the equivalent of like a luxury suite at a sports arena.
Yep.
Like it's for getting deals done.
So, but they're operating at a different level where it's like, these influence. And some founders, the smart ones, don't let, like Sam Walton, he's like, don't give me a freaking gift.
Right. That's why like everything in Bentonville is like, you can't like come in here and like,
because they know it works.
Yeah.
If you give a Walmart salesperson like a bottle of gin or something, it's going to influence him where he's just like, I want your price. You guys did a great job in your episodes. Like, tell me your lowest price. And then I'm going to go to it better be your low price because I'm going to this guy. And if you tell me $1, he sells me 98 cents. Don't waste my time. You're not going to hear from me again.
I have an obligation to the customer to do this, to find the lowest price for them.
Yeah. Because his entire thing, the low cost structure thing, that's a Walton thing. That's a Soul Price thing. That's a Jeff Bezos thing. That's a Rockefeller thing. That's the most common theme in the history of entrepreneurship. Every single thing. Jeff is like, we're going to have a lowest cost structure. We're going to have a low cost structure. We're going to be efficient. We're going to be efficient. Somewhere along the line, 25 years later, now the technology startups is like, we can just spread money all the time because there's no interest rate. Like, there's just money coming back.
He built Amazon at a pretty different time than founders today. The business laws of physics were different when there were interest rates.
Yeah.
Versus when there weren't.
Well, he started when there were none.
That's true.
And then the environment changed as he was building it.
Yep. But like, that while it would have been stupid for Amazon to spend $100 million on something on like crazy marketing activities in 1997, like you could imagine that in 2018, if all of your competitors had raised $1 billion and were, trying to chase market share as fast as possible, you either have to exit that market because you're going to lose, or play that game on the field,
or find a different way. Like, be more resourceful.
But like, be more resourceful. It's like it's easy to say, but like, when all your competitors are hiring all the best engineers by throwing $1 million a year at them, like you're just not going to be able to build a good product if you don't try to play that game also.
Yeah, for sure. But like the whole thing, like when Peter Thiel says this in his book, Paul Graham says it, it's just like startups don't have the advantage, right? Of you're not going to outspend Microsoft or Netflix on, so you got to find underdeveloped talent, right? You got to find these people that if they were the credentialed or if they were the well-knowns, then they're going to you're going to work for me $80,000 and some stock options or go make $1 million a year at Netflix. Like so that's the whole thing. It's like you're not going to win unless you are capable of finding underdeveloped talent. Silicon Valley used to be able to build high growth and profitable startups.
Well, the rule used to be you couldn't go public until you had over $100 million in revenue and you were profitable. Like, if you didn't check both of those boxes, you weren't going to IPO.
And in 2021, of all the companies that went public, it had to be single-digit percentage that were profitable.
Or any of them? Yeah, I don't know.
It's crazy. The game just changes.
Well, to your point, if you have free money, the money supply drastically expands, it's raining down, that's going to build. Did you listen to Doug Leone on, I know you guys had him on your show, but did you hear him on Invest Like the Best?
Yeah, he was great.
Like, he said, he's like, he was telling crazy stories. I loved everything about that guy. I loved him when I heard him on your podcast too. It was like that tough love. This is what I'm into, right? And
he still has, I think maybe my favorite quote said live on an Acquired podcast of, "You could burn cigarettes in our arms and we wouldn't flinch."
And then he has a great line. He's like, "I want you to know we were killers. We
killers,
weren't
yeah,
killers to make the most money. We were killers to get the job done." But he made the point, and very few people probably know more about the venture industry than that guy, right? One of I would imagine he's up there. And he's like, of course, like you have money raining down. He didn't use that word. It's just like it just creates bad habits.
Yeah. It is crazy how many things in my life I falsely attributed to something that were not just interest rates. Like so many things. The answer is just like, oh, it is that way because we live in a zero interest rate environment. And the human brain likes to tell stories. And at the end of the day, it's like, things are the way they are because of mean reversion and what the current interest rate climate is.
I'm going to pull up something like, this is what I mean. Goes back to Buffett. Like, I wish I knew this. I had read this. I didn't remember it though. This is Warren Buffett on interest rates, right? He says,
is this from
Laws of Gravity?
The log in Snowball?
No, this is from his shareholder letters in he said in 84, 88, something like this.
I think the intro to Snowball, I think the scene that opened, the vignette that opens it is Sun Valley right before the tech bubble burst.
Oh no, this is like decade and a half before.
Oh, okay.
This is why it's like, God, like you could have made such better decisions. I could have made such better decisions if you had just known this, and he had known it for 40 years before it happened. I posted this on Twitter, and I open up the next day. I'm like, why does this have 2.5 million views? It's like Elon replied. He goes, "Yep." I was like, oh, okay. I was like, what the, damn, you people really like interest rates.
That's Paul Graham replies on steroids.
So I go, Warren Buffett on interest rates, and the headline is, "They power everything in the economic universe." So that was what Elon was responding up to. And this is Warren writing in the 80s. The value of exactly what you're saying, the value of every business, the value of a farm, an apartment house, or any other economic asset is 100% sensitive to interest rates. That's because all you're doing when you're investing is transferring money to someone now in exchange for a stream of money which you expect to come back in the future. And the higher the interest rates are, the less that present value will be. This is fantastic. Interest rates are to asset prices sort of like gravity is to an apple.
Yeah.
When interest rates are low, there is little gravitational pull on asset prices. We just lived through this, right?
Totally.
When interest
Textbook.
Yeah, when interest rates are low, there is little gravitational pull on asset prices. Interest rates power everything in the economic universe. Because I found that because all this remember the inflation went crazy like a year or two ago, whatever. And I was like, okay, every time that happens, all I do is I have you can buy the Kindle version of Buffett shareholder letters for like $2.
I know, it's crazy.
And I search it for like interest rates, inflation, and I just go and I read, okay, this is
what... You made $1 billion off that $2 purchase.
There you go. And so like you'll say, okay, this is what he said inflation, and then you see what year he said it. And it's just like, and that's where I found that. I go, what did he say about interest rates? Boom, 1980, whatever. And he just laid out it's
so funny because what he also did right there is for every college finance sophomore that's having to go through a class to do DCFs and they're like, I don't understand this is complicated. Like he just explained conceptually a discounted cash flow model there in a way that was like unbelievably digestible. He's so good at that.
The clarity of thought.
Because he wants the microphone.
But also like he just educated you in a way that makes more sense and is interesting and you're entertained by, and you might build a business off that, and then you might want to sell one day or whatever the case is. It's like this is where I'm spending a lot more time of like really trying to work on storytelling ability and concision, right?
Yeah.
The value is in the compression and the distillation, right? If you could listen to like an audiobook for 25 hours, but if I can give you the best idea or one idea that changes your life, and I can do it, every week or whatever, like in a couple minutes, like some of that value is going to be brought back to me. And all that comes from is what I realize is all my heroes have like, what they have in common is like the unbelievable clarity of thought. Like Steve Jobs, Charlie Munger, like you're not going to be like, oh, what does that mean? They take unbelievably complex things, like you're not advertising to a standing army, you're advertising to a moving parade, make it in a memorable way, and then you carry that maxim with you forever.
How do you get better at that? You said you're working on it.
Reps, just straight up reps, like thinking about it, and then hearing yourself back. So the advantage I have of that edit is
Yeah.
You can say something and like, oh, that was so good, and then you hear it back, and sometimes it's even better, or many times it's worse. It's like, oh, I lost. I know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But you missed this part that doesn't make any sense, and so normally I have to cut it. I don't think I've ever re-recorded something.
We only did that for one episode ever. It's really hard to do.
What, re-record?
Yeah. Do you know which episode we did it for?
No.
It was recent. NFL. David and I got on and re-recorded 40 minutes of material over maybe 15 different parts of the episode.
The original recording of that episode was really rough.
The NFL episode was too long. When we started, it took way too long to get to the interesting part, the Pete Rozelle era. And so we had this like massively bloated beginning, and then we had a story arc that didn't cleanly resolve, and we had a bunch of concepts where we didn't nail the explanation.
Yeah.
And so we went in, we cut like half of the first epoch of the story. We recorded new bits to like create nice rising action and resolution on the Rozelle era. And then we recorded another like 10 areas where we were just like, this wasn't said super tight. And I'm really curious if people noticed, because we basically had to voice act. Like we had to listen to the way that we sort of came into that segment, get that in our head.
This was your theater background, like coming in.
And then like pick it up from there. But yeah.
Your editing is so good. We've talked about like back catalog sponsorship, and you told me what you're doing with like Zoom info. And I've been listening to your back catalog, and it's like, dude, it's like it sounds like it was there the day you did it. It is perfect. And I know, because we talk about this, that ad was not there.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's there.
That's the goal.
The NFL episode is what I meant. Of like, it's a crazy story, but even there is like a lesson where like you guys, I text this to you, like totally changed the way I think about things. Or maybe we were talking on Zoom about this, where it's like, I never even thought of that. The NFL is like the largest media company.
Yeah.
I hadn't either. And the funny thing is, that was a David Rosenthal insight, that like the NFL is the single largest media property by value. And the funny thing is, if you go look at because we did this for the Nintendo episode, you go look at the largest media properties, they list Mario, they list Pokemon, and I think if you sort the list includes like video games and movies, and so there's like the MCU in there and there's Star Wars in there, but like they don't think the NFL is way bigger than all of those.
Yeah.
But it's not on the list because people don't think of it as like a media property.
I love looking for stuff like that, both to do episodes on and as for investing too. Is like, what is something that is just so like in the air that people don't even realize what it is?
Or what's a comparison we can make that is super eye-opening, but people haven't thought to compare those two things before?
Yep.
Which is why I tie things into past. Because it's like, oh, this
episode 244.
The idea behind this is like, we've seen this before.
Yeah.
I had reread like the show notes on like the Johnny Ive episode I did. Johnny said something was great, and he said he goes, one of Steve's talents was identifying markets full of second-rate products. And so like he would like, oh, there's the opportunity here, and we're all podcast addicts, right? Yeah. And the reason that we get along is
it's a market full of second-rate products,
and because you know how hard it is to do.
Yeah.
And when you go and listen to other business podcasts, and like I had a friend, his friend has a podcast, and he's like, hey, these three guys, they have large social media followings, but it does not translate to episodes, which people don't understand.
Yeah, rarely will.
Yeah. And they're like, would you listen to their episode and give it feedback? Right? And we went so I was like, yeah, I listened to it. And I go, it's three guys sitting around talking whatever happens to pop to their mind. What did you expect to happen?
Which is kind of what's happening here.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, we need some
to all listeners, we apologize if this episode lacks craft.
There's zero chance that people interested in entrepreneurship and investing are not finding this interesting, because the prep for this is not three guys that have a million other things to do.
Right.
It's three guys that
spent
do this
the last
all
8
the
years
time,
doing this
over and over again. That's going to pop up naturally in a conversation that you can like, oh, I didn't know about this. Maybe there's a bunch of people probably like, I didn't know who Everland was. I didn't know biography. I never thought about the NFL as the largest media company.
Yep.
Like, so no, but their problem thing is like, there's no value proposition.
This is actually something that I think ties into much of what we've talked about over the last couple hours. People are going to do what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if people can do what they want to do and are given unfettered freedom to run in it, they can do great things. if people are forced to do things that they don't want to do, they're not going to make great things.
Yep.
Or either forced to or put themselves in a situation for whatever reason where they're doing something they don't want to be doing, they're not going to be very good at it.
I think that's one of the reasons why we find ourselves so attracted to episodes that highlight craft, is because that's sort of like how we think about acquired. Like if LVMH, benchmark, it's like people who do few things but do them exceptionally well are just so entrancing to study.
I think this goes back to what you were just saying, like, and I want to go to the craft things. Like Charlie again has these simple ideas. Like most of the problems are that you're just not intensely interested in what you're working on.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't care how smart you are. And Charlie's smarter than almost everybody else. He goes, I was not successful until I moved myself into a position where I worked on something I was intentionally interested in. That just these like small rules carry most of the weight. It's like, how bad do you actually want it? And if you're not willing to do those things, then there's nothing wrong with that. Like entrepreneurship is for a very small percentage. I'm not one of these people that think everybody can be an entrepreneur. I would like to see more of them, but there's no safety net. It's like no one's telling you what to do.
Yep.
No one had to tell you guys, hey, you should buy microphones and do a bunch of research and pick
But we didn't
name.
buy microphones to start.
Oh yeah, but like
With it, I think the most interesting thing is that, like, I think we've talked about this concept before on air, is that if someone's going to advise you on starting a podcast, they would say, do a 30 to 40 minute episode and like do it weekly. You know, so and you release it at the same time all the time. Have a guest, so that way that person promotes it too. And we're like, okay, well, we do the opposite of all of those things. And I think it's like the conclusion I've come to is advice is an average, and reality is a distribution. And averages suck because they hide the distribution. You kind of want to know the shape of the distribution, and you kind of want to know like things that apply to your specific data point, not like the average thing. And I think like advice is always an average that hides the distribution. And if you know that you're actually an outlier in some way, then you have to sort of like selectively follow advice because it may not apply to you.
Charlie told me a fantastic story about this, where he's just like, he was singing the praises of BYD, that they're kicking ass. Like he told me like the not just me, I'm with a group of people.
They make batteries for cars.
And they make cars.
Yeah, but he started out like doing like knockoff cell phones in Korea or something, and then like I forgot the guy's founder's name, and I apologize, but like he was telling me the life story, but he was saying that the founder, that Charlie and Li Lu gave the founder advice, and he ignored it. And he was right. He's like, don't go in electric cars or whatever it was he did. He's like, and he, selling, I think he said like 2 billion cars, like, I forgot what, 2 million cars. There's no way he sold 2 billion cars in a year. So like, he's like sold 2 million cars
China is a big market.
Yeah. So he's just like, and he did it. And he gets all the credit because Lee and me told him not to do it. Yeah. And he's just like, same to your point. It's game tape. It's just like when Kobe is watching this particular play of Michael Jordan, that may never appear in his life.
Yeah.
And maybe the move he did wasn't the right move for what Kobe did, but maybe it influences his other thing. It's just like, the life is complex and messy. And like, you can think you're really smart, and until you have a 2.5-year-old and they ask you, why is that the way? And you answer the question. And then their follow-up question is going to be why. And eventually you're going to get to 11 where like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why. It's
Everything ends at I don't know.
It's like, I don't know. And so, like, of course, there's no certainty. Like, that's why if you crave certainty, you've got to get a job. But there wasn't even Facebook when I was in college because I had to work full time. I went at night. But my college did not have Facebook. It was just coming out. So we had MySpace. And my MySpace, you could put a quote, right? Like at the header.
That's right. Yeah.
And I've always thought like this for my entire life. It was like, there's no security in life, only opportunity. And I think that's what so investors and entrepreneurs are going for opportunity at the expense of security. And if you need security, you can get a job. But we see like everybody said, go into tech. Look, you make all this money.
I think this is a super mispriced thing. I think people who crave security, which I get, like all humans crave some level of security, misprice security because no jobs are as secure as we think they are, but they definitely cap your upside. And people, it's like, is founding a company or going into business for yourself as an entrepreneur extremely risky? Yes, it is. But is it actually that much riskier than a job where you could get laid off or the sector could go through a downfall? Or like, there are a lot of things about having a job that are not nearly as secure as people think they are.
Steve Wozniak and Jobs. They're like, worst case scenario, if this doesn't work, we'll just go get jobs. we're broke anyways.
Right.
Like, let's just try. And he's like, sells his van for like Steve sells his van for like $1,500. Like, oh, I'm just all in on Apple. Like, to me, that's like, again, I think a lot of this is like, people are asked, it's like, is entrepreneurship like innate? Can it be taught? Can there be a school of entrepreneurship? And I was like, well, ask Charlie Munger if he taught a business class. What did he say? He's like, I would just teach the history of what you guys do. He's like, I teach the history of 100 companies, and I would talk about what went right and what went wrong. Yep. There's no security. He's not saying, yeah, take my class, and on the other end, you get this degree that guarantees business success. That doesn't exist.
Well, that's what's cool. Like, they have been teaching entrepreneurship for the last 50 years.
So I was I went to the UCF, which is this like diploma mill essentially, and I was in the pilot entrepreneurship program, right, the very first year, and it's a 2-year program.
So do you take us back to that?
Yeah.
Were you thinking about what was your relationship to entrepreneurship before starting the Founders Podcast?
So like, I have never been on a job interview. I've only had 2 jobs in my life. Like I was like, there was no like entrepreneurship. There was no entrepreneurship like community. There was no entrepreneurship industry, right? So like my first business was, this is a long story, but like, I had been accustomed to, I was talking about this yesterday. By the time I was 17, I had been accustomed to working full time and going to school. Right, so like people are like, "Oh, you work a lot on Founders." It's like I don't have to go to school. I can like do this all the time.
You're working half-time as far as you're concerned.
It's like there's a long story here. Like that would take me like 30 minutes, but like my dad sat me down when I was like 15. He's like, "Listen, you don't have to pay rent, but like I don't have any money for you. So like if you want something, you got to go get it." Right. And the good thing about my dad, he's a Cuban immigrant, not educated, but like the best piece of advice that he ever gave me and my brother was a maxim. He's like, don't half-ass things, right? So he does it in like a blue collar, he's a truck driver, like, you know, that kind of thing, where he's like, he prides himself on the fact that like he'll work 72 hours straight, right? But he never made a lot of money and never had an education. Like his mom wasn't good, and whatever. And they had escaped Castro's Cuba. My dad was born in Cuba. Wow. So it's like, imagine like, I talked about this on because you know Patrick's at the end of every Invest Like the Best episode. He says,
episode with him,
he's like, what's the nicest thing somebody ever did to you or for you for you. And I was like, man, like something that it was a decision that happened way before I was born. And like my grandfather is in Cuba in 1958. And he, again, not an educated man. He worked as a butcher and worked in a factory that made shoes. He's married and he's got a baby. That baby is my dad. And Castro comes to power. And he doesn't have a lot of money, doesn't speak English. And yet he had some kind of insight that I need to get out of here, right? And he goes to a country, picks up, loses everything. Not that you had a lot anyways. Goes to a country, knows nobody, doesn't speak the language. When I sat down, the first thing me and Sam Zell talked about, and I think helped bond us, to the point where at the end he said he liked my energy and everything, but so hopefully he liked me, I don't know, was in his story, I was like, because I had obviously read his autobiography, and one of the first things me and Sam talked about was, Sam, I understand and empathize with your story because Sam's story is his dad being Jewish, getting the last train out of Poland before the Nazis bomb it. Wow. Literally the last train out. 18 members of his family, his dad went around to saying, we got to get out of here. This is not good. They're like, no, we're going to stay. They're all dead. Sam's dad and his mom have a daughter. They get to America. His mom's pregnant. Sam is born in America. Wow. And so in that book, Sam's dad's always telling him, you don't understand how lucky you are to be born here. Yeah. Right? And I was like, I understand that mentality because I grew up meeting, Cubans have this thing called Noche Buena, which is, they don't celebrate, my wife's Colombian, so I married into a Colombian family, they do this too. They don't celebrate Christmas on Christmas Day. They do it the night before. It's like Christmas Eve. And so I grew up, you know, for as long as I can remember, I was like 8, 7, 10 years old, meeting people that came over on rafts. And you would see these things. I've seen these in person. Right? It's just like
the rafts.
Think about how bad it has to be.
It's like 50 miles, right?
90 miles, right? I'm going to go over to the study the University of Miami just did on this. 90 miles. You're a parent. Hopefully you might be a parent one day. Like you love your kids way more than you love yourself.
Oh,
like
yeah.
there's people that came, hundreds of thousands of people went to the edge of the island and put their kids on a raft, just hopes that they get to America. And so the problem is like you don't make the announcement to everybody's like, hey, tomorrow we're leaving on a raft. Could you get caught? Right. Imprisoned or killed or whatever the case is. And so the University of Miami did this study. It was like, well, how many people did this? We know hundreds of thousands survived.
Right.
And they estimate that like I think something like 500,000 people perished, never got there. There's the conversation with, there's this UFC fighter named Jorge Masvidal who lives in Miami. He's a Cuban guy. And his dad was one of the ones that escaped. He went on their raft was made out of a truck tire. Like, think of like a size of like a bulldozer tire, right?
Wow.
It's his uncle and two 14-year-old boys. They get off path, right? They run out of their water, wound up being like contaminated. So you can't drink, you'll die.
How do they propel it anyway? Like, how do you make sure it gets to Florida?
So you have some have oars and some have like see that blanket over there? Like you try to make a
sail.
A sail out of like a blanket or there. Some of these are unbelievably in like the level of ingenuity is like for uneducated. They don't have the internet. Like they don't. It's an unbelievable. And so in his case, I know they had oars. I think they had a sail. They get close enough to the Bahamas. They haven't drank water for like 3 or 4 days or something. A pigeon lands on the oar. They wind up killing the pigeon, opening it apart and drinking the blood. That's the only thing that's saved. And so now he gets to America, eventually gets to go from the Bahamas to America. Now his son is like, makes millions and millions of dollars, like as a professional fighter and a celebrity and all this other stuff. So anyways, long story short, the one thing my dad's still alive. I told you my mom passed away. But like, I really think like my dad he did not baby me at all. He's just like, you gotta like figure out how to get a job.
Yeah.
And so I worked at, back then, this is something that Paul Graham made the point of, right? He's like, dude, when I was a kid, the only jobs available were you had to scoop ice cream or something. And like, you've probably met them. I met some 17-year-old founders, a bunch of founders. When you talk to them, they're on their second company. I'm like, what? They're like, oh yeah, when I was like 9th grade, I like did this like Gmail plugin or it's like I made
I had this SaaS tool.
I made $40,000 a month, and like I was making so much money. My parents let me drop out of high school so I can do this business. I'm like, I worked at a car wash, dude. I made $4.65 an hour. So anyways, long story short, I would go to school year round, right? Because I had figured this out where it's like, if you most people went to summer school, they were forced to. I went to public school my whole life, right?
Yep.
And so like people would go to public school, they would be forced to because you failed something else. But if you elected to do that, in 6 weeks you get a full semester's credit, and there's 2 6-week terms.
Like mini mesters.
So I always, even when I was in college, I did this. I would go to school year round, right? And so in high school, I went to school so much that by the time I got to my last 2 years of high school, I was in this program called OJT, which is on-the-job training. So instead of having 6 periods, you would leave after the 4th period, and you'd have to have a job, and you would get your other credits through your employer. So your employer would have to like fill out paperwork, like, is David, cleaning cars? And like, oh, there's a baby that came in and threw up. He did a good job with that. It was disgusting. But the benefit of that was being able to work full time.
Yep.
Make enough money where I could I bought like a new car with my own money, like all that other stuff. And so like, then I realized like, I think I was making like $400 or $500 a week in high school, which is freaking really good. This is like late 90s, early 2000s. And then I got promoted to being a detailer, and that's like, you have client list. And then you start developing relationships. And it's like every other business. Like,
right.
And they're like, hey, I love what you do. Would you do this at my house? Or would you do it on my boat that you don't do? Or like whatever. And so my first business was just detailing cars and boats and taking all this other stuff, where it's like, okay, I spent an hour waxing this guy's car. I might make $20. I do it at his house. I make $150. And so like, I've always just had that, like, and again, there was just not like, this is the story you guys read in the books and the stories. It's like, there's no master plan here.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I need to make money.
Opportunity.
All of my other friends were working at McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, where you just said something like they cap.
Yep.
I never had a capped upside.
Right.
And then so I did all these other businesses. I started in college because I thought I was gonna be a lawyer. And this is so silly because all my friends that are lawyers hate it.
Right.
I dodged a bullet there.
Well, that's the dream. Like the immigrant dream is for like their kids to become lawyers and doctors,
Well,
right?
not my parents. So my parents never said the word college to me once, not one time, because they're both high school dropouts. So like, they never like. I was one of the only kids in high school who didn't have a curfew. Like my parents knew I was independent and left me. They gave. That's the best thing they get. It's like, oh, David can take care of himself.
Yep.
They thought, my mom told me, she's like, I just thought you were a lot smarter than everybody else in our family. So like
We trusted you to make the right decision.
Well, I was also driven too, but she, because you have to understand, like being smart in this family is not like being like the bar is low in the sense that like they're both coming from multiple generations of people that did not prioritize education or self-improvement. So that's why I'm so like ferocious in this, because I didn't see that, you know?
Yeah.
And so this demonstrated when my mom was dying of cancer. So like, you know, HIPAA has this thing where like they're not going to share paperwork or information unless like it gets permission from the person. And like my mom could choose whoever she wanted to. She could have chose her husband, right? They had a bad relationship. They got divorced and then remarried. They should have stayed divorced, but whatever. And you see that with actions. We said actions express priority. She's like, we're in there. And she's like, who do you want the paperwork? Like, who do you want us to communicate? She's like, David, not her other kids, not her husband, not her sister. And she trusted me implicitly. And so I essentially like, they never mentioned college. So I just kept this routine. I was like, people are like, oh, they're like, what do you want to do for a living? And like, I remember watching TV when I was younger. I was like, well, I want to be rich. And you think when you're younger, you don't know anything. Like, who's rich on TV? Like, I liked Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I was like, you could be a judge or a doctor. And I was like, oh, I can't see blood. Like, that freaks me out. So I could be an attorney.
Okay.
So I went to school and I worked full time and I was trying to hustle anything I could do. And so the idea was like, okay, I'm just going to go undergrad for business because I'm interested in business anyways. But I'm only doing that till I go to law school. Right. And this point of this story was not to go on this deviation, but I was in the entrepreneurship program, the pilot one, right? Because I was already interested in trying to make money in any way possible. And this is how bad the entrepreneurship was. And this is why I'm kind of jealous of these young kids where now you actually have an entrepreneurship industry and there's stuff you could learn from. The main what is it called? Like the main subject, Entrepreneurship 101, right?
The curriculum.
Yeah, but there's all these other classes, but Entrepreneurship 101 is run the teacher, right? What is her credentials? Her dad started an AC company in Florida. You're gonna make a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a good market.
And he died on the job because he got electrocuted to death.
Oh God.
And she inherited the company and then she ran it, and so she's the teacher. And so like the curriculum was terrible. It was terrible. Whoa. The best thing, and this relates to what all we do for a living now, which I could have never predicted, is there was a guy that this is kind of like Charlie Munger says you should read if you want to learn about incentives in a really difficult business. Read Les Schwab's autobiography, which I did because Charlie told me to. Did it like episode a long time ago. And he's like, this guy made a ton of money in a really hard business, which is like tires and like oil changes and stuff like that. And so the guy was coming into the class. He was going to donate like $3 or $5 million to have a building named after him. And he had one prerequisite. He goes, I want to talk to your entrepreneurship students before I give you this money. And I learned more in 1 hour from that dude than I did in 2 years on entrepreneurship, because he would talk for like 20 minutes and then he's like, open up your questions.
Yeah.
And I lit him up with question after
Of course you
question
did.
after question. And I remember to this day, just like the simple way, this is like, you know, he was building his business in probably the 80s and 90s. And he's like, how did you know where to expand? And he's like, we would pull the car registration data from the DMVs, right? And we would know how many car owners there were in this specific radius. And we'd have to hit, like, let's say we need 40,000 car owners in a 3-mile radius. Are there any other stores? Put a store right there. And they did that over and over and over and over again.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so like he had ideas like that. And just like, again, you learn through experience. Like that guy could teach us way more because he actually did this compared to...
I think probably all three of us have a like unintended impact of college entrepreneurship programs on us. You definitely
I have
do.
a minor in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, from Ohio State. Similarly, only ever went to public school.
Yeah.
I was a little different. Like I was really into computers. Like when I was 10, my dad and I found a PC on the side of the road, and he was like, do you want to install Linux? And I was like, what's Linux? And like taught me to use a terminal. Like I was really lucky to have a dad is an engineer. And so I went to college for computer science. But
Wait. Back up. you found a PC on the side of the road.
100%.
And you
And
were
he was
like,
like
let's
literally
install Linux.
and my dad's like, I'm willing to bet that thing is just old.
Yeah.
Like he's like, because we're looking at the, you like that at that point you could open computers. So we're like looking at it. He kind of like picks it apart, looks inside. He's like, it's got all the pieces. Like this is
That's
just an old
amazing.
computer that someone's throwing away.
That's amazing. All right, keep going.
So you majored in computer science?
Yeah, but I like went in thinking like I want to have some kind of like I want to do business and tech, but I didn't know what that meant. And so I found my way to a club called the Business Builders Club, and they were like, oh, there's like a real an actual minor that you can take. And so sort of like through student organizations, found my way to actually doing something in the College of Business, which like I go back and forth on whether undergraduate business stuff is useful. Because on the one hand,
But it got you plugged into your network. All your buddies
it's all
are
about
like,
people.
you guys have all done
Totally.
amazing
We
things.
just came back from my bachelor party, and half the crew is the Business Builders Club, Ohio State friends that I made there.
The content sucks, but
Yeah,
the
right,
relationships
right.
are everything.
But the
It's like
relationship, that's what, yeah.
And it's not the stuff you're learning is actually super important, but you don't have the context for why yet. It's like you're working on a DCF model, and you're like, this is useless to me.
Yeah.
Or you're like learning about depreciation and amortization. You're like, this is awful because I have nothing. Whereas my physics classes were awesome. Like there's labs, like I can touch and feel the things and understand mechanical advantage and how the free body diagram works. But in these business concepts, they're like super abstract, and they weren't useful to me then. But like I went and took a Coursera class last year, 2 years ago on accounting because I was just like, okay, like I want to actually understand accounting. In part because we talk about it on Acquired all the time, and David understands the stuff more than I do, and I hate it. But like, it is so much more useful when you understand where the rubber meets the road in the real world.
It would just be beneficial, just like go out and try to sell something. Like you know what I mean? Like in class, like get real world experience. Like what did Charlie? I just reread. Have you guys read The Tao of Charlie Munger?
No.
I've heard it's good. I can't remember if I looked at it for the episode or not. I might have.
I own the hardcover, the Kindle, and the audiobook. That should tell you like it's worth it.
By the way, I own the audiobook and the Kindle of almost every book that I own.
Including the hardcover too?
No, I don't own that many physical books.
You're not a hardcover person.
Oh, because you can also switch.
Yep.
That's the Whisper Sync or whatever it's called.
And all the time, I actually hate that they sync because it like my common workflow in doing acquired research is I listen to the book and then I'll take some notes in Apple Notes of like half quotes where I'm like, oh, I got to look this up later. And then I go back in the Kindle and I search for the actual quote and like pull out the data to be able to use it in the episodes.
I think listening to the audiobook before reading the book is very helpful. It like, gives you a basic overview. It's almost like reading a Wikipedia page before you read the biography. It's not enough detail, but like you have like watching a movie for the second or third time, you know how it ends, and it gives you pick up on things you missed the first time.
Yep.
In The Tao of Charlie Munger, though, Charlie was talking about this, where he's just like, I learned about business at the Buffett grocery store, right, from the cash register. And it's just like, because that money is the lifeblood of all. I think the quote in the book is like, money is the lifeblood of all businesses, and that's where the money was at this point.
Yep.
And it's like you just learn, and he says like you learn the importance of like showing up on time, how to work with people you don't like how to service, take care of your customers. Like these are things that are all like universally applicable.
Yep.
That it's another form of education. Like that's the biggest, the key of experience and why it's so important. It's the most valuable form of education because it's education of life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I love to read, like more than almost anybody else. Like you guys obviously love to read. There's just so much things you can't learn from books. So it's just like, it's not enough.
David, what was your college entrepreneurship?
Well, it's funny. It's more thematic than an actual impact, but I can't remember if I've talked about this before. Princeton had then just one entrepreneurship class. It was like one class in the Department of Electrical Engineering. I was not an electrical engineer, but people knew about this because like, oh, this is cool.
Right.
And so senior year, I had already, the recruiting happened in the fall, so I was already like had my job, investment banking job that I was going to go do.
Yep.
Yeah, so a whole nother can of worms. But I was like, oh, I'll take this class. It's supposed to be good. I'm going to go work on Wall Street. I should learn about high-tech entrepreneurship was the name of the class. And it was like all, guest lecture. It was case method. And Ed Chow, the professor, would have guests come in. One of the guests, either the last or like the second to last class, was Tim Ferriss. What? Right before he published the 4-Hour Work Week.
No way.
Yes.
He asked Buffett a question,
At
and he
the
goes,
annual
"I'm a
meeting.
guest lecturer at Princeton."
This is
And
what.
you're the-
He totally hustled this. He like traded on that name for
Yeah.
like years before he made it as Tim Ferriss.
Because he just went in for one class.
It was one class. Yeah. It was one day of one course, and that was like this case study class. And I think he had taken the class when he was at Princeton, and Ed, the professor, like liked him and kind of took a shine to him.
So you and I are guest lecturers at Columbia.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Oh yeah. We're guest lectures everywhere. So he came in, and so he was working on the book, but it was like done, but like was about to get published. And so he came in, and the whole like class was like basically telling his story and then like showing the book. I remember in my notes, like for the class, I titled them. I have them still somewhere on an old computer. The title was Supplement Guy.
Do what you love.
Yeah,
that
do
is the moral
what
of the
you
story.
love. Oh my God. And then, oh man, afterwards, talking about missed opportunities. He's older than me, but he's not that much older. So he'd only been out for a couple years. So class ends, and he was like, "Hey guys, anybody want to hang out? Like, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go like hang at Terrace. Like, if you want to come at the Princeton has eating clubs instead of they do have fraternities, but like one of them is Terrace, and Jenny was actually in Terrace, and it was like basically I'm gonna go like hang out and have a good time with anybody who wants to come along. And I was like, nah.
Now I'll see you on the podcast circuit later.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I love how this just was uncovered in random conversation, right? It was just like computer science, investment banking, law.
Yeah.
No, but like
No common denominator.
no, and look where
I use theater more than I use computer science.
Yeah.
Like
So-
that was what
I like the idea of like from venture capitalists and podcasters, right? I went and my daughter asked me to go speak at Career Day.
Oh, hell yeah.
And this was last year, so she would have been.
That's like
she
the
would've-
greatest thing
She
ever.
would have been fourth grade, right?
I can't wait.
And so she's like, "Well, Daddy, like you have a weird job. Like, will you come
have a
in?
weird job.
Yeah." She's like, "Will you come in and like give a talk?" And so you mentioned earlier, like entrepreneurs are like odd ducks and like crazy people. They don't they see rules. It's like, oh, that's just words written down on paper. Like I'll just do my own thing. So I show up. And I was like, yeah, I'll do anything for you, like whatever you want. And so I show up, and there's each class at the school she has two teachers, right? And so they're like, oh, well, hi, Mr. Senator, we didn't get your email. Did you bring like a thumb drive? I'm like, what was I supposed to email? And why would I have a thumb drive? And they're like, you're a PowerPoint presentation. And I go,
Have you ever made a PowerPoint presentation
never.
in your life?
And I go, no, but this is right. I go, they're 9. Why would I make a PowerPoint presentation? And so I go there, and I was like, listen, I'm fine. Like I'll wing. Like I got this. Like they're like, you're gonna wing it. They didn't use the word wing it, but I forgot what it was. So
You're like, no, really, I got this.
I show up, right, and they're all like sitting on the floor, and there's like 39-year-olds. Like,
Are you like stand up?
no, never.
Okay.
And so
I want to see some energy.
and I was like, I talk for 2 minutes, right? I have 30-minute slot. I go, I talk for 2 minutes. I was like, listen, don't listen to your parents. Don't listen to your teachers. I go, follow whatever you're intensely. I just gave him Charlie Munger's advice. I go, what are you interested in? Keep following that, even if it doesn't. There's not an obvious career path. And I use the word. I go, it's highly likely that the job that you're going to have has not yet been invented. I was like, there was no such thing as a podcaster. Like I couldn't go to school.
Yeah, they're all
for
going to be prompt
podcasting.
engineers.
Or what? Go, or whatever. And like, so that was like the 2-minute summary, and I said a little bit more than that. I go, okay, now what questions do you have for me? And so I spent the next 28 minutes. I told them the importance of reading. I was like, listen, your friends are all going to be in these stupid apps. I was like, you're going to have no attention span. Learn how to read and read whatever you're interested in.
Meanwhile, your daughter's probably like, oh my God.
So I'll tell you the funny thing. So then 28 minutes, and then they're telling me about books they love. They're like, oh, I like Harry Potter, and I like this, and I like travel. And we had like the greatest time, right? So I come back, I see, this was like 9 a.m. I leave. And my daughter gets out, later on in the day, and she goes, Daddy, thank you very much. My friends thought your talk was the best. I was like, oh, that's like interesting. Like I'm glad they liked it. I go, well, let me ask you a question. Who came after me? And they're like, oh, it was John's mom or something. I was like, oh, what does John's mom do? She's like, I go, well, first of all, did she do a PowerPoint? She goes, yes, everybody did a PowerPoint. And I go, what does John's mom do? She goes, oh, she's a corporate attorney. I'm like, so you like. They're 9 years old.
And also, that's like the alternate future for you.
Yeah.
Like it was like,
You would have had a PowerPoint.
it was like Bizarro David going after you.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, like what you would, Yeah, but then again, I was living in Florida, and like the law there is not a lot. Like you'd have to move to like DC. Like the law there is like insurance. Like so, I'm at the San Francisco airport, right, which is way nicer than Miami International Airport, by the way. It's like
I've never been to Miami.
oh, it's like third world, man. It's
Really?
just like the ceilings are low. They have the new they built like this new part, but SFO is way nicer than mine. And I see this billboard of it says the America's largest personal injury attorney. That guy was in Orlando. I was going to school in Orlando at the time. His name's John Morgan. He was famous back then, and now he has. So like that, I would probably work for him. Like I'm like chasing ambulances or whatever. No disrespect. Like whatever you got to do to pay your bills. Like I have no problem with that. But yeah, I just thought it was funny. I was like, you also have to think independently. Like they're 9 years old. Like they don't want to sit through. I don't even want to sit through a PowerPoint. It's certainly
Nobody wants to sit through a PowerPoint.
No, you should like try to like. I would have just brought a video game console or something. I was like, let's play video games. You know, like maybe you could
That's a
design
viable
your
career.
Hey, Blake Robbins and Mitch Lasky made the point in one of their GameCraft episodes that I never even thought of. They're like, you know how hard it is, how few pure software companies are that sell over $1 billion a year in software, and how many game companies. They said it on the podcast, like there's so many video game companies that make so much money.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think they say this is bigger than the video game industry is bigger than music, movies, and books combined, or whatever.
And it has been since the 90s.
Yeah, that was the interesting thing we uncovered on the Nintendo episode is that stat gets bandied around around a lot right now, which is it's very interesting because like the video game market has done this, but the video game market has basically always been larger than TV and movies combined, but has never gotten attention or like been thought
It's
of as
one
a
of those
legitimate
secrets that's been out there
form.
for 30 years that people haven't paid attention to.
Yeah. All right. I'm afraid of these memory cards filling up. This has been wonderful.
Yep. Thanks for having me, guys.
Listeners, thank you.
We almost never say this, but I think we got to do this again.
Let's do it again.
I'll be here next week. No.
All right, great.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.